This is the Courier 13 podcast with Winter Andrews, a weekly think tank of in-depth conversations among rising filmmakers. My goal with this show is to showcase the innovative talent and ideas that Hollywood hasn't discovered yet. We're recording. All right, we are live. Well, we're not live, but I like to say that to make it feel official. What's up, Gabby? How are you doing?
Hello, I am existing.
Yes, I love to hear that. I think, yeah, that's a good way to say it. We're existing right now. We're going
Exactly.
through it.
Yep.
Yeah. How are you? What have you been up to?
Well, I guess people who watch this don't know me, so
I'm sorry. I see. I always do this. I always like get into it because I'm just excited. But if you want, definitely take a sec to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, hello everybody who may watch this. I'm Gabby Henderson. Yes, and I recently graduated from DePaul, and I'm a sound designer, composer, musician, producer. Yeah, all the.
You're a jack of all trades. I mean, you're a vocalist. Like you sing. Like you do the whole king and caboodle, especially when it comes to music.
Yeah. I guess any sound things when it comes to audio, post-production audio. That's kind of my niche. I'm just kind of freelancing. I've been composing a little bit for some like companies and stuff. I'm working on my own music. Actually, just finished recording my first EP and am releasing that very soon, like in 2 weeks. So
so again, this is someone who knows very little about music or music production. Okay, so an EP, is that like a demo track? What is that?
EP is it stands for extended play. It's like shorter than an album, you know. Mine only has 5 songs on it. Like I think to be an album you have to have like either like 6 or 8 songs in total. So EP is just like a short little thing. Like I'm working on an album, but I decided like last month, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna release something before 2020 ends because I have like some singles out, but I don't have like a full body of work. So I did this in the past month. I just worked on it for a while, and I'm pretty happy with it. Um, I'm releasing it, I think, on December 5th. It's like almost done. It's being mastered right now, and then I'm gonna do a little, you know, promoting on socials and see how that works. But yeah, so I'm releasing it. It's called A Year of Living Dangerously. I don't know what genre you'd say it is. It's like singer songwriter but also like alternative, jazzy kind of. Well, this one sounds more musical theater-y. I don't know. I think genre is like fake. It's just music.
Genre's fake. Wow, that's controversial. I mean, I don't disagree with you in that fully, but like, especially with music, I was thinking about this today with genres because I interned for this production company in LA, and I read scripts for them to see if they want to like buy them and sell them and like get them made. And they represent writers, and I was just because I at this point I've been in the internship for like a couple months, and when you read a Western, it's like the same thing. Like it's like this guy who like gets in this sticky situation and he needs revenge because he's hired for normally it's like a little girl hires the guy to like hunt down the person that killed her family. That's like how like 50% of Westerns go. Yep. It's like the same thing. Horror, same fucking thing every time. So what was I even going with this? Genres are definitely real, but I think it's a construct.
Yeah, I feel the same way with music and film. Like I was just rewatching. Have you ever seen Midsummer?
Yes.
love that
Yeah,
movie. I love Ari Aster. I watched it
great.
yesterday with my brother because he hadn't seen it before, and I love showing people weird movies for the first time. And like films, like you can't say that film is a horror film because it's not. It has horror elements,
Hmm. It's
but
right.
it's a
It
drama.
is, but it is more than that. It's more. It's much more than that.
Exactly, and I think it becomes really deceptive in both film and music because when you're advertising something, you want to like put a label on and bill it as like this is a horror film. And like with Midsummer, I think that the advertising they did a disservice because they were really pushing it as this is horror, and then you watch it and you're like that is not horror. It's
Right, it's
got some
not.
creepy moments, but it's like a breakup movie. And same with music. Like when I'm putting my preparing like releases to like put them out. I'm independent, so I just use like this streaming this platform that like sends it off to stores, and they give you two little things to be like, okay, describe your genre. You get two descriptors. And I'm like, I don't know. I put alternative and singer songwriter because I really don't know what it is.
Mhm.
Um, but I love to do all kinds of genres. I mean, I studied jazz in school, and um, so everything I do is inspired by jazz, but I'm not a jazz singer, even though I can sing jazz and I have done a lot in the past. But like, I think a lot of times, at least in music school, well, yes, in music school, people are tend to. I mean, at least at DePaul, there's literally just classical and jazz, and those are the only two options you have. And so people there are basically put themselves in a category and only are like, okay, I can only do this. And um, so yeah, I've always like really rejected that. Plus, I wasn't like so I like kind of went to music school, but I didn't. Like obviously, I went to film school, but I decided to take as many music classes as I could, and basically was a film school or sorry, a music school student without taking all. They have the literal dumbest curriculum in the world. Like I don't know if you know any, any
We're
people
talking
that
about
go to this school.
DePaul
Yes,
so you're talking about music or you're talking about like film?
the music school has the dumbest curriculum. It's
Okay,
terrible.
okay.
Film school, I could go into that later. I have, you know, I don't
We
know.
yeah, I a lot of yeah. I mean, we can just talk about. I mean, just talking about. Oh man, there's just so many questions in my mind that I want to ask you.
Honestly, ask away because if I get stuck on a subject, I will ramble.
No, it's me as well. EP, your EP. I'm fascinated by your EP because obviously, I think anything artistic that is made during this time period is inherently going to be influenced by what's going on as far as the lockdowns, as far as the depression that people are feeling being isolated from one another. Do you think, like, what inspired this EP?
well, the EP is literally about 2020 and how shit it was and is.
Okay.
I mean, it's called Year of Living Dangerously, and it is about yeah, it's about 2020 being isolated. Also, I've been during this time of isolation and all the free time I've had, I have been delving into those Marxist Leninist readings and really discovering my breadth as a communist. And like my friends and I started a book club, so most of the songs are just about like rising up against oppression. I have a song about how much I hate Jeff Bezos. I have a song about how isolation drives you crazy. Like, and the title is actually a quote from a what's it? It was a quote from the president of Indonesia in the 1960s, who was um, he wasn't the leader of the Communist Party, but he like welcomed the Communist Party, and it was about the U.S. decided that because Indonesia had a Communist Party, that they were going to massacre the country, and the president quoted, he was like, "This has been a year of living dangerously," and I like was reading this book in book club, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna steal that," so I did,
Well,
and listen.
so I'm sorry. So the Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
President of Indonesia, was planning on massacring everyone.
No, no,
He
no, no, no.
was.
The U.S. did that. The CIA did it, but
Oh,
they
the CIA.
they
Well, yeah, yeah, the
well they
CIA
didn't do it, but they basically
talked about it.
made it
There were
happen.
discussions.
Well, no, they got the Indonesian military to do it. They just kind of, what do you call it? They were behind the scenes, as the CIA does. They created a coup to overthrow the government, and they massacred. This was in the 60s. It's a great book we read. It's called The Jakarta Method.
The Jakarta Okay, so this is from a
Mhm.
book. So what do you? So what is this incident? So this happened in Indonesia in
It's,
19. What was this?
I think it was like the 60s, or was it the late 50s or the early 60s? And it was kind of like sort of during the time where like Cold War ish people, the U.S. making all of their citizens hate anything that had to do with communism without knowing what it is. Kind of sounds a lot like today. Um, and so, yeah, the CIA was that's what they do. They destroy South American countries and southeastern countries that are trying to. Because actually, Indonesia was just they were under the colonization of the Dutch, and they had just freed themselves from the Dutch, and so they were like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, the country wasn't fully communist at all, but they had a communist party, and people were in unions and stuff, and it was like really helping the people get a better way of life. And the CIA was like, "Ooh, we're gonna stop that," and so they killed everybody.
So that was the motivation was just because there seemed to be a possibility that that influence would take over that country. So part of like the Marshall, what do they call that? The Marshall, like the domino effect. Like if one country began, it's just like the Cold War thing.
Yeah,
Like when one country falls, the other one falls. So we have to intervene in
because
that fight
actually, um,
against it.
yeah, the U.S. is a capitalist country, and capitalism and imperialism work together, and they knew that if, um, like, they just wanted control of the resources, right? So once they like got rid of the Communist Party, then they started using, I forget what resource Indonesia had. I think it was like fruit or something. They like started, because if the country went communist, then they would own all of their resources, and then they wouldn't be able to trade them with the U.S., and the U.S. wouldn't be able to make more money. And that's why the US constantly is destroying countries in the global south. And
Hmm.
that's what I've just kind of been learning and unlearning. Like I never really knew much about Marxism, communism at all. I just knew that I didn't like this stuff that was going on in the world now, and I just needed to like kind of read up on it and like put it into words as to why it didn't sit well with me. And so after just doing that research and reading more, it kind of clicked, and I was like, oh, that's why I hate capitalism.
I guess what now that I want to dive too deeply in this because this is a film show.
Of course,
We
this
got to
is still
talk
about
about the
the
film.
EP. This is what this we were talking about the EP, which
We
this
were
is the
talking about the
inspiration
EP,
for
and
the
then
EP.
this,
Don't
but
worry.
so what about I guess Marxist writings attracted you? Was it just because it was something that was just not what you didn't like about how America conducts itself, or what was it about it?
Well, it was more like, I mean, I guess I'd say I always knew that I disliked just how America has such a infatuation with capitalism and saying that it's the only way. And I was kind of like, also my friends, well, some of my friends are like in the philosophy, they're philosophy majors.
Mhm.
So my friend already would talk to me about it. I was kind of like, like, oh, cool. But then really kind of once like lockdown hit, and I was like, oh, the economy's crashing and the government's not helping anybody and blah blah blah. Like that kind of like really made it more like real life. Cause before, I guess I was kind of, I mean, I'm a student. I'm like kind of under the cushion of like, okay, I'm working on my studies, and like I know stuff is wrong, but I'll deal with that later. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, oh, actually, everybody's struggling. People are getting evicted and trying to work. And if people can't work and the government won't help you, that's capitalism literally failing. Um, and so I was kind of just wanted to see what like other alternatives were. And
Mhm.
just reading up about it and all the different things, and also just learning the nuances, because yeah, when people think communism, they think like dictatorships and stuff. It's kind of what people immediately go to, and I wanted to like really learn about like what were the things that went wrong with that, like why do people think that way about it, and so so I could come to my own conclusions instead of just parroting off of what I've been told.
Well, I think that's a good way to go about it. You don't just want to listen to whatever someone else is saying without actually investigating yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess my thing with it is just like I mean, I don't know. The thing is, I've never read like the communists. I've never read this stuff,
Hmm.
which is probably foolish because I mean, I
I
can't
mean,
really talk about it without discussing it. But the thing that I think bothers me on the level is I've just because I've read a lot of history, a lot of people have died in communist regimes.
yeah, and a lot of people have died in capitalism too. Like, I think that's what
Right.
people they kind of look at it and they're like, oh, so many have died, but like you have to look at the reasons why. And a lot of the reasons why is because the US and the CIA like creates these coups to overthrow these places because they think it's bad. Um, I mean, yeah, and you have to look at every part of history. Like, I'm not defending every like there are places that call themselves communist that weren't or still did horrible things even under that umbrella. But like also capitalism, so many people have died under capitalism, and you have to look at how that has also ruined people's society. So I don't think that I think people kind of point the finger and like, oh, it's because of communism that people died, but it's not always because of communism. There's other reasons. They just happen to be under a communist um,
Right.
economic system. Actually, there's never been a true communist country, so I'll say like a growing communism or socialism too.
Well,
So,
I've always heard that North Korea is considered a true communist country. Would you disagree with
mm,
that?
I mean, that's what they say, and China calls themselves communist too. And I haven't done as much. We kind of were still, well, we took a break on reading for book club because of school. I'm not in school. I was the only one. So we were about to start doing our research on like China and Korea. So I can't even speak to that right now, and I don't want to speak on something that I don't fully know about.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'll say that because I don't like to put out false information.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'll wrap this up, or you can wrap this up, whatever. But I think a lot of times it's not even what causes the death and destruction in these regimes, whether they be far right or far left. It may be partly the system, but it's mainly the selfishness and greediness of the people who are running the system.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge part. Like
Like, yeah,
I'm for a see there's I guess there's different types of communism. I'm for the classless, stateless, moneyless society, but some of them are like, oh, okay, we need a strong state and strong government. And it's um yeah, that is one of the that's I think what
like
people get
Stalin
annoyed
and
about.
Mao were obviously terrible people and how
Yeah,
they treated their people. Like, like that's the thing. And you can say that about certain leaders of capitalist run countries who have started
hmm
genocides and have started these terrible things. There's no, you can't look at either side and be like, no blood has been spilled. Do you know what I'm
for
saying? So
sure.
I
No, I'm not.
think,
I never am defending
oh,
horrible
that's not what I'm saying.
dictatorships.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
insinuate that you are. I think because everyone obviously falls on different lines of this, and it can
hmm
get into a really bitter and toxic debate because it is such a personal thing to people.
hmm
But I feel like a lot of people spend the time on like they don't recognize that the problem is when you give so much power to any one person or like say an oligarchy, whether it be a communist or a capitalist society, bad shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, and that's
Like
why, and
terrible things are gonna happen.
exactly, and that's why, like, for me, I am more interested in a society without those kinds of roles, which people are like, oh, it's such a utopia, and like, I recognize that in our lifetime we'll probably never see a communist America ever. I mean, if America just adopted some socialist ideals, having companies owned by the workers and actually fair wages and universal basic income and healthcare and, free college. Honestly, I would be fine with that, because I don't think that America, like, I don't think it's gonna happen unless something like crazy drastic happens, which I mean, I guess we could say crazy drastic things are happening now, but like
Oh,
that's not
definitely.
gonna, you know, I mean, and it's just the fact that the current political system here has turned socialism into a swear word, like even Biden is like, oh, I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in blah, blah. And it's like, bro, but why don't you believe in universal basic income? And why don't you believe in healthcare for all, Medicare for all? Like what's the reason? They're like, oh, we can't, the taxes and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but we spend, well, the country spends, I don't like to associate myself with American. I'm just kidding. But the country spends billions of dollars on defense and freaking, what is it? Um, taser shields for cops, but then they're defunding schools and all these social programs for people that actually need help because all this country cares about is money. They will destroy the climate, which also a lot of my EP is about climate change too. That is like the biggest issue I think the world
I mean,
faces.
I think that is the biggest issue that
It is. I mean,
we're
that's,
facing,
and it's really
in my opinion.
unfortunate because like, and well, I mean, it is the biggest issue, but like the root of the issue is greed from capitalism because these companies know that saving the environment's not going to give them any money, but if they destroy it to make more stuff, fracking and more oil and cutting down trees, like that's making them money. And it's like, you know, I don't know. I just get very baffled of like, I sit there and think about it too long. Everything's made up. Like money's not real. It's just real because we said it is. And I'm like, what are we doing? I just want to live in a farm and or something. Like I, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Well,
what the AP is about.
okay. Okay.
But I'm not like, okay. So I'm not like, again, I'm big fan of communism, fan of socialism, blah blah blah. I try to poetically include it in my songs.
Try to poetically.
Um,
So it's not the basis of it, but there are obviously influences of it.
well, it is the basis of it, but
Okay.
I sprinkle. Okay, there is one song that is literally, the song is called Guillotine Waltz, and I mean, you can imagine what it's about, you know. It's just, I mean, it's really just
I,
my frustration
guillotine
at,
waltz.
it's my frustration at capitalists destroying the environment for money.
No,
Which,
well, that is very. I mean, that's a legitimate thing to be upset about.
mhm,
I mean, like, I think that's the thing. Capitalism can, when it is unchecked, it can quickly work against the interest of the betterment of humans. Because there's always has to be the incentive for profits in order to make a company operate a certain way. Because they can't survive without profits. That's just the way it is.
mhm,
So it constantly becomes this struggle of like, okay, well, guys, we really need you to do this. But then you're like, well, we can't. How do you expect us to make money if we can't, like, if we start doing this, what you're proposing, which might be good for the environment, that doesn't help us with our goal.
yeah,
And that's where the fundamental dilemma comes in. It's like, okay, wait, we need to start doing this because it would better our society. We should stop loading our food with sugar. That's the thing that bothers me with like how it affects food. Because I think, and I'm not saying there's a lot of people who make great products as well. I mean, there's a lot of people who make a lot of healthy foods and supplements, and I applaud all those people who are actually conscious about our health and our well-being.
mhm,
But you see most of this, a lot of stuff, even like stuff that you get in the supermarket, like a little bowl of pasta, like a little pasta, like the pasta you get in jars and shit. There's like 15 grams of sugar in that, which is completely unnecessary. But they know that, well, or whoever's deciding on doing that at the company who's deciding to make the decision to put that sugar in, they know that they've done studies and they've done research. They know, well, if we put sugar in this, which we obviously with the research we know is bad, will make you obese and over time deteriorate your health. Sugar gives you nothing beneficial to your body. If we do this though, people will consume it more rapidly because when we eat sugar, there's an addictive thing that happens in our brains and it's a cyclical thing. if you eat sugar and more, and especially if you don't notice it, you don't notice that you're eating the sugar, you're just going to keep eating some and being like, well, nothing's wrong with this. But no, they've laced this shit with sugar.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I
I
mean,
get really passionate. This is a subject that I do get passionate about because I'm very into like I feel like for people to live the best life that they can, they have to be eating good stuff.
but it's also that well, my parents are vegan, so I believe me, I they are very big on eating healthy, and I'm not. It's not that I'm not big on eating healthy. I just like when I do have when I live on my own, which I have before, just not right now. I
Uh,
don't have I don't got no money, so and that's another thing. That's the big part. It has to be, people have to be able to afford it. And poor people, which there's a lot of poor people, and the economy is garbage and people can't afford the healthy food, and then it becomes an elitist thing where only rich people are able to eat healthy and they're the only able, so it all ties into each other. So I if yeah, if food was made
well,
affordably and healthily, but again, that doesn't make money.
but that's the dilemma because I don't mind. I have no problem if a company gives something that's beneficial to people and like it makes their lives better. Like
Hmm.
that's a good thing. Like I'm glad that they're doing that. But the second one, it's like, oh, we're gonna decide to do this thing now because that'll give us profits and that'll hurt people. That's where I feel like we have to take a stand and say, wait a minute, this is there's got to be an ethical limit to this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Sometimes it really baffles me. Like the smaller companies seem to be the ones that care, but once they get bigger and you know growing more, or really, it's I'm not even just small companies starting off. It's the ones that have already you know have their like place in the industry. They're like, oh, we got to do it this way because that's how we continue to gain power and money. And yeah, yeah, it's pretty fucked.
I mean, there are issues. There's a lot of fucking issues with it, and that's what I mean. I definitely don't consider myself a Marxist. I just my whole thing is like I look at this what we're dealing with. It just I agree with you on the fact that it baffles me that people don't. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't want to accept that there's problems with the way that we do things. That there's not
Definitely.
issues that need some revision. We need to reform some elements of what we're doing because it's not the best that we can be doing. What we're doing right now is not the best that we can be doing.
I mean, it's close to the worst, to be honest. It's pretty bad. I mean, I just think that, yeah, progressive issues need to be.
Well, for America, for the quote unquote most advanced country in the world, I think we
Mhm.
are pretty much at our most rock bottom right now. We were
Eh,
literally stuck in
okay,
people's houses.
yeah, okay, in that sense, I was gonna be like, well, what about slavery? But,
Oh well, and that's yeah. Well, yeah. Jeez.
but yeah, I know what you mean. No, I think that like
Yeah.
it's just the whole progressivism needs to stop being viewed as like too radical. Like giving people money to stay at home is not radical. That's literally what other countries are doing. And look, they've gotten help
Well,
starting
if
to get rid of the virus.
yeah, and if people can't, if people literally can't leave when you're telling them that their businesses have to be closed, then
And then they
then
want
what are
to
they
pay.
going to do? They can't
Exactly.
go out and do anything. You're saying, well, come on, you got to go support yourself and your family. Well, okay, you literally shut down our businesses for like 4 or 5 months. No, not
Hmm.
5 months. It was like three. It was like three. At least in
Yeah.
Illinois, it was like three some months. But
Hmm.
like that can completely devastate someone. That
Hmm.
can annihilate someone's security. So then, how do
Yeah.
you expect? So then they got to completely start over because the government told them you have to shut down now. You have
I
to
mean, I
stop.
think the issue is just government, not even accountability. They'll tell you to do something, but then they won't give you the means to do it without destroying your life. It's like, okay, you can't
Yeah.
work because we closed your business, but we're not giving you any money, or we'll give you $1,200 for it's been what, 8 months of the pandemic. People can't, I mean, come on. People, I mean, anybody probably can't live off $1,200 in 8 months. I know I spend more than that, and it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, progressivism and people talking about the progressives, they're asking for too much. I don't think asking for free Medicare during a pandemic when people are losing their health insurance because they're losing their jobs is too much. Asking for people's basic rights of like being able to live, eat food, and comfortably survive, that's like not asking too much. And I think that's the bottom line. Like, again, like you don't have to even be Marxist or socialist or whatever to even agree with that. Like, I think that most people can agree that that's like bottom line of like people deserve to live without struggling.
Yes. That's not, yeah, that's not even when I don't like it when someone says like you're a Marxist if you want to help people out.
That's
Like, well,
stupid.
like, why
It's
are
just
you
being a
being
human.
so like this? It's like, no, that's just like we live in the United States of America. We shouldn't have this shit, especially when people have been. That's the thing. They were forced to lock down. They were
Mhm.
forced to stop their livelihoods. And now you're like, well, now we're not going to help you get out of this at all. No, you made us do that. You got us into this.
Yep, the just yep.
It's just
I know, I want to punch the
that
ground with
bothers me.
that. Yeah, that is definitely one of the most infuriating things about all of this. And our lovely president who I anyway, never mind. Yeah. So, but back to my EP, that's what it's
Yes,
about.
let's get off of this just because I don't wanna this isn't what this is about. But obviously we are talking about frustrations and obviously I mean honestly, I know that I mean I don't think we have the same viewpoint, but I think it was very great to have this conversation because you just gave me another perspective. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Your EP. Your fantastic EP that's coming out soon.
Yes. I think it's coming out December 5th. It should be. I'm just waiting for the guy who's mastering it to finish. And then I will. Yes. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I wrote, recorded, produced, mixed all of it myself in the past month, which was like pretty fast turnaround. I mean, my album that I've been working on that since like July. Um, and so it's kind of a good exercise to make me work faster because I sometimes work really slow. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it because it's nice to have full bodies of work out in the world. It helps with just like if people are like, oh, you do stuff, and you're like, oh, sure, check this out. I just have singles and I have 2 music videos, which are also helpful. But having like 5 songs in a collective thing is just very comes in handy. So I'm just hoping. I mean, not having the ability to go and play shows that also kind of sucks. But once things open back up, then I will have lots of material to present to the world.
Well, I checked your story a lot and you're always working. You don't strike me as the person who's not doing stuff all the time. I mean, I know you're being like humble, you're like, I'm in my parents' house right now, but you're doing a lot of stuff right
I mean, it's
now.
I do stuff, and I have actually been quite fortunate in having a good amount of freelance work to work on. Since being home, I moved back to my parents' house in May. And I've had a number of projects, but yes, I'll just say yes, because I mean, half the time
Just
I'm
say yes.
actually just yeah.
Just say yes. Just say
I
yes. You
mean,
don't need to explain yourself. Just say yes. Yeah.
yeah, I'm mostly working when I'm not asleep or riding my skateboard. That's basically all I do.
Honestly, that sounds more fun than what I do. That sounds a lot more fun than what I do. You know what I do?
What do
I
you
literally
do?
wake up, I start working on schoolwork or stuff for my internship, and then I think about the next idea that I'm going to
Thinking is that's the first step in
do.
everything.
It is the first step. It is the first step, but it's infuriating me right now just because I finished this thing that I've been working on for 8 months, and now I'm trying to find the next thing,
Mhm.
and it's just I don't know.
I mean, look, well, once you're done with school, which I will say, only good thing to come out of this pandemic for myself, my personal life, is graduating. Because I am so sorry. I don't know how any of y'all. I did the online school thing for the last quarter of last school year, and that shit did
It's
not work.
hell.
It's
It's
horrible.
hell. It's
I
awful.
it was so like I mean, I took some classes that weren't terrible, and also I didn't have to do any of my finals. Except I did for some reason there used to be a local jazz ensemble, and our teacher was like, "We're gonna do it over Zoom," and that does not work either. You can't sing with 8 people at once over Zoom. It sounds terrible. So that was depressing. But like, yeah, it's mm-mm, couldn't do it. So yeah, bless your heart.
Thank you. That means a lot. um, no, so I don't even want to talk about online school. Then now that's a failure of the educational system. Online teaching, that is a failure.
Well,
I
okay. Granted, I feel like okay, some places I don't know how online school is going for right now. I'll say in the first, like in spring quarter when like it was like a really like 2 week turnaround and everyone had to make their online curriculums, I was giving people slack then. But like if people don't have their shit together after like a whole bunch of time for summer and then school starting back again, that's on them, you know?
it's not even that because I agree with you definitely on that. Like when it first happened, we all were just trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. So it's like if you
Mhm.
were having issues, I mean, I think any teacher who had to go through that transition that quickly is like kudos. Even
Mhm.
if it didn't go perfectly, like listen, that was crazy. You had to
Yeah.
like learn Zoom in like a week. Um,
Yeah.
and it's still it's not even like that. Like I think what upsets me, or I think even most people, is like the teachers at all. It's like just the format, the way in which we're taking in this information feels so like impersonal.
Mhm.
It's like you're just I mean, you know what I mean? Like you're logging onto a computer, and in most of the classes, everyone turns off their cameras because they're so sick of it. They don't
Yep.
even like care, and the teacher doesn't ask them to turn on the cameras anymore. So you can honestly just be like at your place, and the classroom's just like background music. And
Mhm.
like the only way, because now in most of my classes, you can't even talk because that slows it down. So the professor's like, just type in like any participation you have, type it in. And then that makes it like, okay, now I gotta like type it in every time I want to just comment on something. And it's like, now I don't even want to comment on anything anymore because like whatever, man.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Um, I mean, that was just a rant on just my feelings
I
on
mean,
it.
that sounds like it sucks. It just I mean, I had one Zoom class, and then the rest of my classes, last spring were, like, asynchronous. So it wasn't horrible, but then I would also just not do the homework and wait until the last, like I mean, I got so lucky with finals that they canceled it, or most of the final projects. Still graduated with the 3.9 GPA.
Whoa.
Don't know.
Hey. Okay.
But that's also just I okay, I don't know, is your are you directing concentration?
Uh, secret. I don't concentrate on anything. I'm a normal like bachelor of arts, just film and television. I did
Okay.
not decide to concentrate.
Okay. Well, I mean, in general, I don't know about you, but I thought that film school was really, really easy. Like, it's not hard at all. Like, I don't think the only class that I almost failed a class once, but it was a music school class. It was group piano, which is so dumb because I play the piano, but I just I just didn't try. The teacher was a bad teacher. It was his first quarter, and then I dropped the class, so it didn't even count for my grade.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, no, I film school is like it's almost too easy. Like I did learn stuff. I learned more stuff in my sound design classes, but I just the curriculum, like it's too they don't like build off of each other very well unless you have the same teacher for the same classes. And it's like
Yeah,
as long as you did something and as long as you put in effort, then you'll get an A, you know? And so
right.
I, there are lots of class like worst class okay. Worst class at DePaul's School of Cinematic Arts is music video production. If you take it with Steve Jones, hopefully he'll never watch this, he probably whatever. Worst class I ever took. Horrible. Wow. Like only thing I got out of it was I did make a music video with a friend of mine. But
That's cool.
this man, I dead ass did not even show up to class. Like my friend and I would alternate, so I would show up one week, I'd sign my name and his name on the attendance sheet, and then he would show up the next week, sign my name on the attendance sheet, and then I would just like be like, gotta go to the bathroom, and then I just leave. And he still marked me as going to class. He did not give any feedback in the beginning. He was like, all right, this class is going to be music video history, starting from the first music video to present day. And when I tell you, we spent 10 weeks watching black and white music videos and we never got past like the 60s. Like ever.
Oh,
And like he would just go on rants. He showed us his he showed us his work. He said he was an editor, but he's really a producer apparently. Some of my producing concentration friends said he's better at teaching
oh,
the producing and like contracts class. But this man was like, "Oh, look at this work! I made this music video for this band. It was this band covering I Am the Walrus." And I kid you not, this looked like a 3-year-old got a hold of like Adobe After Effects and just put every effect on the clips. Like all the photos were like hyper saturated, spinning around. There was like clip art. It was so bad. And I'm just sitting here. And then like for our final project, we had to make a music video, obviously. And he was like, "Oh, I don't really care, you can just like get some clip art or something and just like throw it on the screen." And like I put a lot of work into mine. And actually my music video played at premiere that year. Um and like my friend and he and I did everything. It was a song that I recorded as my first single called Western. You should check it out. It's on YouTube and Spotify and all streaming platforms. Um,
we're definitely gonna link everything that like we mentioned of your stuff. I'm gonna link it in the video so
oh,
everyone will
sweet.
be able to see it all.
Sweet. But yeah, so my friend and I made that video and it was really fun. Well, it was fun, but also very stressful. It's not illegal to film on the CTA without a permit, but we did it and we got kicked off like 5 times. And it was March of last year where it was like negative 17 degrees outside and we were outside on the Western Brown Line stop freezing our asses off. And the music video turned out really good, but like and there were a couple other people that had made really good videos, but he did not give any feedback. Like the final class, we just watched it and he was like, "Cool." And then we just go to the next person. Nothing from him. Zero feedback, no anything.
Oh,
It was just terrible. So that's the worst class. So if anybody who's watching this goes to DePaul, if you take music video production, don't take it with Steve Jones. Do not. Also, he was just like keep going on rants about like race, and it was like weird. Not that I talk about race with people, but it's just weird in a music video class where there's no correlation. We'd be watching like black and white films, and then he'd be talking about like just weird shit. I don't even fucking know. But yeah, don't take that class. Also stupid because as a sound design major, there's no point in me taking music video production. It was required for my concentration. But like music videos, other than the music, there's no sound. So I don't know. It should be more of a cinematography class. But yeah, so don't take that class. What were we talking
that's
about?
a great PSA. Thank you. You saved so many DePaul students from taking that class now.
I mean, you can get it subbed out. Honestly, my advisor, I don't know who people's advisors are, but you can switch your advisor to anyone you want. My advisor, Rob Steele, came in clutch. I literally would just be like, "Rob, I'm not taking this class." He's like, "Okay,
Rob Steele's
okay."
a great man.
He's great.
I really enjoyed Rob. That was the one. He was so kind to me because I suck at sound. I suck at sound design, and he gave me like a B plus, which I shouldn't have gotten. But he was just like, I understand this isn't your thing,
But I mean,
kind
if
of.
you're trying, like that's the thing. They see that you're trying, and it's not like you're just. I mean, there were some people. I'm not gonna name names, but like since I was in the sound design concentration, basically it was like the same 12 people in all my classes, and we had the same teacher, Travis, every time as you get to the higher sound classes. And most people are like, all right, but there are some people who I'm like, this is not your calling. Like, you gotta stop. Because they would be making, like, in our composing class or in this film scoring class, which it was a fun class. Rob taught it as well. And I highly recommend that class. And well, if you take it in person though, but like, it was a fun class. He gave us like cool projects where like we would have to go into class. He'd give us a prompt. Um, would it be a prompt? He would give us a short video, it just like in class that day, and be like, all right, you've got an hour and a half to make a score to this. And it would be like a minute or some or so. And then everyone would be working away in the computers. We take a break, and then we keep working, and then we'd watch them all at the end and do critiques. But it was actually a really good exercise in like working quickly and just like coming up with ideas. And so I really appreciated that. And it's hard to do, but then there were some people where the final came around, and I was also the studio manager for the sound studios. Um, so people would always be asking me questions, and they treat me like I was an expert, which like I'm like I'm still a student, like just
Okay, but like compared to like, say if I walked into like the sound studio and you were there, who's the expert? Not me.
okay, yeah, but like
Not this guy.
there's still a couple
No.
people that could have been studio manager. It was me and another girl who we were co-managers. So I mean, people acted like I was an expert and everything, which like I was glad to help since it was my job. But some people would be asking me shit that we learned in class that we like, the classes are all recorded, and people would like message me and be like, "Hey, how do you do blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Listen, we did it in class. Like you have a file on your computer that we made in class that shows you exactly how to do this." So that was annoying. But yeah, some people, I, they need to learn a little bit more and
It's a very
learn.
nice way to put it.
I'm not trying to name names. I don't know who's gonna watch
Oh
this.
no, I don't want that. Would be a little awkward if you
No,
started naming
no,
names.
I'm not gonna name any names. But I'll just say that there are some people that I would not call to work on any project with me because their work needs work.
I mean, that's the thing about just teaching and studying art. It's like no one can teach you how to make films. You
Yeah,
can either you like have the passion for it and you're just obsessed with it and that drives you to get better at whatever you're doing, or you just I think the only thing that a film teacher can honestly provide you is inspiration and like the like drive to like, yeah, go for it. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about this, basically like because I told him like we were working at this, we were interning at this, you know, Facets. It's right by DePaul.
I might have heard of it. What is it?
It's like a film conservatory thing. And
Oh wait, I think I have heard of that.
they host events and stuff. They host the Children's International Film Festival, the
Mhm.
Chicago one. And you know, there's a big legacy behind Roger Ebert knew the owner, and the owner was very big in the like independent film Chicago scene. And I just it was I honestly it's so weird. I got that internship as a fluke. Like I was working at the DePaul finance department as a desk receptionist. Worst job of my life. I hated that job so much. And but I knew one of the guys used to be like the communications director at Facets. So he was like, "Oh, you're in a film. You're a nice kid. What you should intern there." It's not like he even like helped me. He just said you should do this thing. And then I just went and I applied and so that's why I was there. And I'm talking and this with me and my other intern. We're talking about this, and he was a musician, not like a film. He didn't score or compose or anything, but he was just like he's like, yeah, I make music, like that's my passion. And we were just talking about he refused to go to film school, and he told me why, and he kind of made fun of me or actually like going to learn art, which in a way, when he explained it to me, like I kind of made sense. It kind of made sense to me. And it was just like there's nothing that like none of the learning that occurs in a film school occurs in the classroom. It all happens outside of it. Like the classroom is just an illusion that you go to make you feel like you're a part of the traditional classroom system or the way of that we've educated people. But it's not that's not what you learn. You don't you're that's not the point of it. And I'm not trying to say that like film school is pointless because I've met a lot of amazing people because I went to DePaul. And I did have some great teachers who did inspire me. I got that. And I got like hands on equipment and stuff. And like I wouldn't have gotten that if I had not gone if I had not gone to DePaul. Sorry, I can't speak for some reason. Um, but yeah, I
I
yeah,
mean, look,
it goes back to everything that you've been saying,
mhm.
like how it's like people, all you need to do is just do something in class.
I mean, okay, so fun fact about me, I like low key fucked a Paul. I hate that school.
Low key, the way they've been acting right now with how they've been treating students during this whole thing,
Mhm.
shitty, just
Yeah.
shitty,
No,
just
I'm not a
not.
big fan. See, I think that with film school, technical stuff, like I did learn a lot from my sound design classes, but the classes I took, like film form, I really did learn a lot of the stuff on the job. For post production sound, I learned that in the classroom, but that was also because my teacher, Travis, who was also my boss, like he actually is a good teacher and like is thorough and teaches people stuff. And
Mhm.
so the sound kids like actually learned and like we go over stuff every day in class and like or every week in class. But like yeah, I did a lot of, I did like independent studies outside of class with him to like learn how to mix music because we don't really get taught how to mix music, just mostly film. So I did learn stuff there. But all those classes that you have to take that are required, no, I didn't learn shit and it's really
It's
I'm
yeah,
coming at them, but
yeah.
I'll say that the boys, the film boys, you know exactly the type of people I'm talking about. Those people that are like, oh yes, I'm a directing major, and then they've never done anything
I feel
in
like I
order to
know
success.
exactly who you're talking about.
Mhm.
I think I have an
And
idea.
it's like,
I can
okay,
envision some in my head right now as you're saying this. Yeah.
yep, it's those people. So I think the technical stuff, like I know people that do like camera or editing a little less so, because I mean, like you just kind of edit. Like even I'm not an editor, but like I edited. I've edited stuff, and I used to want to be when I came to film school. I actually wanted to be a director. And then I directed one short film and I was like, I'm never doing that shit again. No, sir. I never finished that film. I still have it on my hard drive. I've
Well,
never
I'm
finished it.
curious. What is I not to like bring up something that was like painful, but like what is the film about?
It's a horror-ish sci-fi sort of film called Ami. It's basically done. I just have to do it just needs sound design and music, which is like what I do, but I like don't want to look at it. It's not bad, but it's not good.
Uh,
And like the shoot was so stressful. I filmed it in February of 2018 on literally like $1,000. And my God, it was just so. Only good thing that came out of that is I worked with the same people when I made my most recent music video, Raisin, which I didn't make. I produced that, but I was like in it. And
mhm.
that video is like my proudest accomplishment. It looks so good. It sounds great. I wrote and produced it and recorded myself. And
It's
it just like
fire, is what you're telling me.
yeah, it
That's
looks
what it
great.
sounds like.
But I work with all the same people, like the producer and the DP. I work with them again, and it just kind of like redeemed myself because
Uh huh.
yeah, that shoot was so stressful. Like the first day of filming, I'm not much of a director, honestly. I'm like soft spoken, but not. Like I have a really quiet voice. You can hear me well because of this microphone, but I have a really soft voice, and people often tell me they can't hear me at all. And like I don't like to yell. And there was just like just stuff happening, and I had to be like assertive, and I really hated that. Well, I am assertive, but like not in that way. Like I'm not even kidding. Our first day of filming, it was a blizzard, so the school almost shut down. And if the school were going to shut down, we wouldn't be able to film. But then it did not shut down. We were able to get our stuff. But then literally the first scene we're filming, we've rented an Airbnb. The Airbnb owner's landlord came and was like, "You're not supposed to be here. They're not allowed to rent an Airbnb out to people because of their lease." And we're like, "We have no control over this." So they let us stay. And then the cops came and arrested the Airbnb owner like while we were filming, and like we're all just standing there, and like the police just arrest this guy, and everyone's like, "Well, cool." And then the next day he was just back, like nothing ever happened. It was so weird. And it was just so stressful. And like the last day, we were filming the last scene, which was like the most important scene. I don't know why we waited for on the last day. We were like 2 hours over. It was 17 degrees outside. The camera kept freezing because it was too cold. The most stress, it was so stressful, and I hated it so much. And I had like a freaking mental breakdown, and then I was like, all right, never looking at this again. And it got edited, and it just needs color and sound and a score. And I have yet to look at it in 2 years. And I don't know, I'm just probably not going to.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think sometimes looking at stuff that you felt like you could have done better is very difficult. When I look at scripts that I've written in the past, I think, you know what, maybe if I looked at this, I could probably make it better now knowing what I know now, but also like that's to do
Yeah, it
that. I'd
is.
rather just figure out something else.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
especially just I ugh. And also I don't like directing, you know? It's not my thing. I do prefer sound. So then I started doing a lot of production sound, which now I really hate production sound so much. I did production sound like I was on like every set for like a year. I was the production sound person every weekend. People were like, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do this?" I'm like, "Okay." That shit hurts my back. Like the mixer is really heavy. And also people don't understand sound, right? And so they would just be
Yeah.
asking me to do stuff, and I'm like, I literally am just pointing a microphone at people. Like I can't control. Like I was on this one shoot once with my friend. Thankfully, I wasn't mixing that time. I was boom mopping for him because he was kind of just learning how to do it sound, and I was like, oh, I'll help you out. I'll boom mop for you. And it was this show actually. It was called Step It Up with Steph, and it was this lady. It was like
That
a
sounds great. What was it about? I'm sorry. Step up
oh,
with
it
Steph.
was just God. It was horrible. But she was kind of like it was gonna play on PBS. Like it was like a
Oh,
show, but it was like a fitness show type of thing. She would like talk about healthy lifestyle and blah. But Steph was the most insufferable woman I've ever met in my life. Like think like late 20 something, white girl, just she was always like every time we cut, she'd be like, "Oh my god, check my tan, check my tan. Am I good? Am I too orange? I want to make sure I look really orange." Like she wanted to look orange, and then like she would change outfits a number of times, and like I had to keep re giving her another lav mic. And she was just so weird about it. Like I don't like putting lav mics on people because I don't like touching people. And so I always make sure I'm like, okay, is this okay? Like, can I like if it's a hard placement, I'll have to do it myself. But usually I'm like, okay, just place this right here and like tell them what to do because I don't like to, sometimes you gotta go in people's bras and stuff and like, yeah. But
I
like,
I recently just mixed sound for a friend of mine was doing a little shoot during quarantine. Um, yeah, it's very awkward.
it is. So I just tell
It's very
people,
awkward when you're
I
trying
just
to
tell
work with
them
an
how to do it.
actor.
But she was
Yeah.
so weird. Like, so she changed her outfit like 4 times in between scenes. And so I was putting on her mic. Well, first of all, this bitch was like, as soon as we cut, she'd be like, "Where's my mic? Give me my
Whoa!
mic."
I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, wait a
I'm like,
minute. You can't swear on this. No, I'm
literally, as soon as we hit cut, she's like, "Where's my mic? Where's my mic? I need my mic." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Can you just pipe down for a second?" And then I was like, "Okay, so I'm gonna put the mic here." She's like, "Oh my god, it's so fine. I'm used to being molested." And I was like,
wait a
"What?"
minute. Well, I'm
I
sure. I
know.
mean, I'm hoping she said that like just as a joke.
I don't know if it was. She said everything very like seriously, and like that was just. And we were filming in the John Hancock building too, so she like had money. Except she didn't pay anybody. So I don't know.
Are you sure she lived in the John Hancock building, or she was just posing like she lived in the
She
John
didn't live
Hancock
there,
building?
but she had a friend that lived there, and we were filming in their really nice apartment. And I was pissed because I've never been up that high in a skyscraper, and it was a cloudy day, so we couldn't even see down. But my friend Brad, who was mixing it, for some reason was the only person. Like they hired students intentionally because they didn't want to pay people, even though the show was going to be playing on TV. And so my friend Brad was the only person from the crew that like worked on every single episode. They filmed like I think another like five or so times, but it was really funny because he recruited a lot of people to like be on the set, and so like there was just like this camaraderie of like it was mostly people in DKA. And so like there's just like this camaraderie of like sometimes I would go over his house after they'd be on a shoot, and like everyone had just come from stepping up with Steph, and like we were all just like ranting about how terrible she was. And one time we were just chilling in Brad's house back when I lived in Wrigleyville, and like it was like me, him, and like 15 other people, and somebody had a mixer and we're like, let's make a song. And so we all started like just using like I think he had like a tambourine and somebody had a guitar and we were just strumming one note and the song was like, fuck you, Stephanie. We were all just like screaming and thrashing. We recorded this song about how much we hated her. And then the show aired and it was so funny because they kept putting out this like invite. They're like, we're having a cast and crew party. And so they had the cast and crew party date set for like I think it was like December 2018. And then the guy who was the producer, which I swear these people did not know anything about film because instead of calling like roll sound, they would call he just went audio question mark and I just
Oh,
went
that's a
what is that?
giveaway right there. It's like, oh, you
Yes,
don't know what this is.
I
Oh
know.
no.
It was just a mess. But like they kept moving the cast party back and back and back until they like moved it. I think they moved it like pretty much like 6 months out, and they're like, "We're finally having our cast and crew party," in like January of 2019 when they'd filmed this in like February of, or no, they filmed this in I want to say it was like December of 2018. So like a whole year, they were like, "Okay, we're finally having the
Oh,
cast and
you.
crew."
Oh, wow.
It was ridiculous, and nobody showed up. I didn't go. I was thinking about going just for like free drinks, but like a mess. So that was one of the worst. Actually, I've been on worse shoots. I don't know. Are we getting into like stories of like film stuff? Because now I'm thinking about my up and down.
What? Okay. I mean, since you brought it up, what has been the worst shoot you've ever been on? Because I can
Okay.
tell you mine. You tell me yours, and then I'll tell you mine.
Okay. There's kind of two for different reasons. So I'll go first with the one where I was doing sound. Well, I was the boom operator, and someone else was mixing. And this shoot, it was a DePaul shoot. I will not say what shoot it was, but it was a shoot in the summer of 2018, and the script was terrible. And they had like I'm not even kidding when I tell you they had like 10 or 15 different locations, and they decided that like one of the locations was like an empty street. It was like a story about this girl who's going off to college and like saying goodbye to her boyfriend. So they're like on a road trip, right? And they decided that like okay, one of the scenes was like exterior abandoned road. So why tell me why they decided that we had to drive all the way out to what's that town? There's a town in like central Illinois, like an hour and a half away from here where they filmed Groundhog Day. I forgot what it's called. But we
Wait,
drove
but
all
so they just to find one abandoned road for a
mhm.
scene, they spent the money to transfer everyone to Central Illinois.
No, they made us all drive our own cars. They didn't pay they didn't pay any obviously it was expensive.
Really?
They didn't pay gas money either. They made everybody drive.
Oh
They
wow.
made a like 25-person crew drive. They so every day there were two location changes. In the morning we'd start one place, afternoon we'd drive somewhere, and then evening we'd drive somewhere. I forget what the town was called, but we went there instead of instead of like like a normal crew or a normal setup and say okay, so we've got a daytime, afternoon, and nighttime shots that need to be done in this specific town. Let's go there for a day and get all those. No, they said we're going to spread it out over 4 days. And each day we're going to have to, at the end, we're going to have to drive an hour and a half there. And then even after we finished filming for the day, which we always went over an hour, you'd have to drive all the way back home. So we would wrap at like 12 and then not get back home until like 1:30 in the morning. And just one of the days, oh, and the director. So, oh, There are so many things wrong with this shoot.
That's just such poor
Yeah, but so you know how
planning.
DePaul, you're to use their equipment, the department heads, especially the director, has to be a DePaul student unless you get special permission, right? So the producer worked at the cage, um, and the director was his friend from Hawaii, and so like um that was not allowed because he just put himself down. He lied and said he was the director and the producer and the DP. And he was a producer in the DP, but he wasn't a director. So he put down to get the equipment. He said that he was the director. And apparently they found out about it later and he almost lost his job because the guy who was directing, like he knew about cameras and stuff, but like he would just like there's a whole camera crew of like a 5-person camera crew, 2-person sound crew, like 7-ish G&E crew.
Yeah.
And the director would just take the camera. He's like, I got this. He would just take the camera handheld, and there was a lot of driving scenes. And we were like, hey, he's like, we need to film this driving scene in this car, but like, it's just gonna be me and the actors in the car, not even the DP, right? And me and the sound guy, we were like, okay, well, it's gonna sound like shit because where are you gonna put the mics? Like, we hadn't even rigged the car for sound. He was like, oh, just hit the record. Just tell me where the record button is. I'll hit the record button. It'll be fine. And
The camera sound is not. That's not going to be good.
Well, no, it wasn't the camera sound. Like we put them. He was like, just leave the mixer and the microphone in the car, and he just like pointed it in the general direction of the actors and was holding the camera, not even thinking. And then it started raining too, and rain inside of a car with a microphone. It sounds like just dropping water on a tin can, so you couldn't hear any of their dialogue. And it was just a mess. And then with the driving scenes, they tried this rig where they put the front of the car on the back of a flatbed pickup truck to get they wanted them driving towards the camera,
Yeah.
That didn't work because it was so loud and like I was, they can only have a couple people on the rig. So I just kind of sat back and the sound mixer went. But like they all had to sit on the back of this open pickup truck on this car. It looks stupid because the car was tilted up. So it just looks like this car is just like driving up. And you could hear the sound of the flatbed. It was so loud you couldn't hear any of the dialogue. It's just this rattling noise. And then there's one day where the first shoot of the day we were on this beach. So it was a 4-day shoot ish. We were on this beach on the south side, and it was like Rainbow Beach is what it was called, and it was so hot, but they didn't have any water for the crew, and like it was like 95 degrees outside. Everyone, like multiple people, almost passed out. There was no crew. The producer, well, he wasn't the producer. He was like the line producer. He was like the onset producer. He wouldn't do anything. He just sat there, and the AD, who was my good friend, like I love him. He graduated a year before me, but he was a great AD, and he was, I love working on projects with him. And it was funny because right after that terrible shoot, he and I both got onto a much better shoot where we actually got paid, and their crafty was just so good. And it was like a professional shoot that we were on right after that terrible shoot together, so we like trauma bonded through this experience.
Yes.
But like it was so hot, like I almost passed out. Like the lead actress almost passed out. It was just. And then also multiple times we got stopped by the cops, and then the producer was yelling. He had one of the PAs was his friend from Hawaii, and he like got in a screaming match with him, and then they just would randomly add scenes. And so I did ADR for this shoot like a year later, because they needed some voiceover, and I got to watch it, and they took out about, I want to say, 75% of the scenes that we filmed. So none of that stuff that we did even made it in the film. Half of those locations were not even there, and the film was trash. But the funniest
bottom line, film was trash.
Garbage. But the funniest thing to me, the 2 lead actors who played the boyfriend and girlfriend had never met each other, and they met each other on that set. Apparently they got together and were dating and are now expecting their first kid together. They probably had their first kid.
Well, there you go. There's like
they got some
a happy ending there.
But that was just so bad. So that was one. But you go with yours. Then I have another one where I was a PA, and that's, oh my god.
Okay, before I tell you, because we're shooting this in the afternoon and the lights and like the sun's already going down, I'm gonna turn on the light so you can actually see me. All right. Oh, my books fell. Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay. All right.
Well,
So
your story. Let's hear it.
my story, it's not gonna be as good as yours, but cause I mean, well, I've been on some like okay shoots and I've been on some shitty shoots. I think the worst shoot that I've ever been on was actually one of the first shoots I went on as a college when I got into college, and it was for a TV series. Like they were trying to shoot a couple episodes of a TV show. And honestly, it was a very they're trying to make a very generic sitcom with this family, and the cast was good. They had hired some really great talent both behind the scenes and in front of the camera. But the management, like the showrunner of the show, who also wanted to be the producer, who also was like kind of the director, that individual wearing too many hats. And whenever things went wrong, which would normally occur because there was just poor planning and no one even knew what was going on, this individual who was the producer, director, so and so would get mad. He would just get mad, and then the set would stop. Like it would just stop. Like we just be around. It's like, shit. I thought we were gonna do two scenes, or like no, sorry, like five scenes today. We got like through one,
Oh my god.
and it's like, and it's not even like with your case. You actually had to go to a lot of different locations. Like yours is actually hard. We were at Cinespace.
Oh my.
We were at Cinespace on the lot in one location mainly. This wasn't supposed to be that hard, but it really was one individual who was just kind of fucking it up for everybody. And again, I was just scripty, so I didn't really see behind the scenes. So eventually, so the shoot just kept getting pushed back and back and back. And because I liked the other people who were involved, who are actually people who I work with to this very day, Danielle was a part of that. Jasmine Randall was a part of that. And a lot of people, I've met a lot of great people in that set, but it just kept getting pushed back and back and back and back, and they had to get a different director. And I think that one director finished off one of the episodes. No, see, I left. I left before they finished the episode. I don't know if they're still shooting. I actually don't know what ever became of that project. But yeah, no, one person can fuck it all up. It really is.
Yeah, gotta love that. Those.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this shoot that has been going on at DePaul, and I don't know if they ever finished, but they've really been filming it like for like 2 years, and it was very infamous. And if anyone asked you if you wanted to go on that set, which I got asked a number of times if I would go on a shoot, and I always turned it down because I had my one of my sound mixer friends who kind of taught me everything I knew about production sound. He's like, "Yeah, they're nice, but like, don't go on that shoot. It's terrible. They're never gonna finish."
Are
It
we
was annoying.
talking about the same shoe?
It's not the Pretenders, is it?
What?
No, I think this was for a feature though. That I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay, 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 cool. No, it's not. It's not.
Okay. No,
Not the
yeah.
same.
This one it was by grad students and had been going on I think since before I got to DePaul and was still going on when I was a junior and may still be going on now. Who knows? So 4 years and counting. But yeah, those always suck. Now, my other terrible experience. Now, this
Oh
was
my
my
goodness.
professional shoot where I was just a production assistant. So
Oh, this is professional. Okay. All right.
yeah, there were some sort of celebrities. Gabrielle Sidibe was in it. You
Oh
know.
no,
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah.
So she's kind of, I don't know, she wasn't rude, but she was kind of rude. But she had reason to be pissed off, kind of. But she was kind of rude. But so I was a PA because my sophomore or summer before my sophomore year, I had dabbled in production and I second AD'd for this one grad student guy. And so like a year later, he was like, "Oh hey, I'm gonna be ADing this feature. Do you want to be a PA?" I was like, "Sure." It was paying. I mean, I guess it was paying money, right? So, and so I went on, and it was set for a month long. It was directed and DP'd by this guy, Rich Wong, who I think the only movie I recognize that he made this Netflix movie called oh my god, it's with Lily Collins about this girl who has an eating disorder. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
I
I'm sorry.
I'll think of it, but it was like a movie on Netflix. Like it I watched it without even knowing who he was like years before. Um and so yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I didn't have anything else to do that summer. So it was a month long. They're trying to do a feature in a month, which is kind of crazy. It was a really small budget indie, like small budget but big budget. So like they had like what $2 million, which is pretty small for they
No,
had a
that's
lot of
that's
people on
low
the crew.
budget. Yeah.
And so it was absolutely hell. So to skip to the end, I did get fired. Um,
You did get okay.
I did get fired.
Oh
I
wow.
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't do anything wrong. They just ran out of money, but also they said I was the worst PA. Okay, but granted, we were outside. They worked the PAs like shit. There were at most times there were 5 PAs, but usually there were three, and the crew was like 80 people, right? And they had us, we had to set up tables for like lunch and stuff. There was one day where we were filming on the north side and we were setting up lunch in this giant field. It was like this community center. Humongous, like probably like I don't know how big an acre is, but it was probably 2 acres. Who knows? It was a big field. And they're like, all right, guys. So they started filming
What
for the
is
day.
2 acres?
I don't know.
What
It
is
was a
two
big
acres?
it was a big field. Who
It
knows? It
was a
was
big field. I would assume 2 acres.
yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Big enough for a soccer field, and there was a baseball field and stuff. So they're like, all right, guys, we're gonna set up the tables for Crafty here, and they were big tables. Like these were heavy ass, like 30-pound tables that we had to set up, about 12 or 15 of them.
Hmm.
And they're like, we're setting up here. I'm like, okay. So we set it up. Well, actually, we had set it up already for breakfast, and then they're like, we're gonna move it slightly. So we moved a little bit, and this was in the morning. It was about 90 degrees outside, and then got later. It was like 98 degrees outside at like what 1 p.m. when it was time for lunch. And they're like, actually, we're gonna move them all the way over here. So like probably like the length of a football field, all the way over there. They're like, okay, and so we moved in, and then they're like, actually, no, 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 move that back. You're in the shot. You're in the shot. So we had to move it back again. Again, 98 degrees and humidity. So we moved these 30, 15, 30-pound tables between three people doing this three different times. And then right after lunch was done. Oh, and then that same day, there was like this random lady who was homeless, and then she kept like trying to take our food. And then she like called the ambulance on herself. And then we were all just sitting there like, what is going on? Like the EMTs came and she's like, all right. And she just walked into the ambulance and sat down and like drove away. We were all just like, cool, love that.
Wait, wait. I'm sorry. Who was that? Who was
This
this?
random like homeless lady was kind of like loitering around the set, and she wanted some food, and I think she looked like she was pregnant, but she was really old, so I think she had like stomach cancer or something, and she like called the ambulance on herself, which I think that she did that a lot to like go and get like free food or something. um and yeah, it was just kind of weird because like the ambulance just drove up to set, like nobody knew why it was there, and we were all like, what happened? And then she just kind of like walked over and just plopped down into the stretcher.
He was
Like
like ready to go.
yeah, so that was one day that was like, oh my god. And now the worst part, so it wasn't some people on there were union. Obviously I was non-union, and they were all weird to me because I was like the youngest person there. This was back when I was like 19, and it was my first professional shoot, but I've been on shoots, so I knew how film worked. But they all were like, "Oh, you're green. You don't know anything." Blah, blah, blah. And this one, like, fucking the locations manager was so weird, and they all were like dress coding me because I wore like a crop top like I'm wearing now, which is like barely a crop top. It was like a normal top. It was also like freaking 100 degrees outside, and I was sitting outside on fire watch, and he was like, "This is inappropriate." I'm like, "Bitch, I don't give a fuck." I mean, I didn't say that, but I was just like, cool, and just like stared at him because like
Cool.
get off my face, you know. It was 90 degrees outside. What am I gonna do? Like wear so I wore a jacket for the rest of the day because I was pissed. Um, and then there was one day where oh no, but you know you're supposed to only do 12-hour days, right? And then 12-hour turnaround, right? So no, we would get there on set. The PAs had to be there early to go get the trucks because the trucks were all parked at this like music studio on like the southwest or like it wasn't southwest side, it was like off the blue line. Um so the PAs had to usually get there at like 6 in the morning, maybe 5 in the morning, pick up the trucks, drive them to wherever we were filming. So we would always get to set 3 hours early and we would leave set 2 hours after everyone else. And I it was like 14-hour days with like a 5-hour turnaround. So I was just like exhausted. Like we were all just so tired. Like everyone was tired. And like the first day that Gabourey Sidibe was there on set, she was pissed because the entire crew actually did a 13-hour day. Like the whole crew. And like then there was a rainstorm. Okay, bro, I
Oh my
had beef with this.
god.
Also, they took out all of my money for taxes, so I barely got paid, and then my tax return the next year was popping. But so they had this movie, by the way. If anybody knows, this movie is called Come As You Are. Do not watch it. Do not support it.
Come as you
Trash.
are.
Uh-huh.
Trash
Um,
movie.
it's like a comedy. It actually they released it like earlier this year, and you
Where
know,
is it on? Netflix.
I think they released it. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's streaming, but it released in theaters and they put it in some festivals and it got some little awards and shit. And like, whatever. Anyway, so
Wow, you got some real
they
beef with
it's a
this
buddy
production.
I mean, and it was also I don't know, it seemed problematic. Like the slug line was a paraplegic, a quadriplegic, and a blind guy go on a road trip to Montreal so that they can lose their virginity in a brothel. So you know,
Why didn't
I
you
don't
lead off with that? You should. That should have been the first. Okay, just so
oh,
you
and
know,
get
this is
this,
what the movie's about.
and also none of the people playing these characters were disabled at all. So that was also a thing. And one of the guys was trying to be like he was one of the producers. He was also the lead actor. He was trying to be in character, so he always rode around in his electric wheelchair and like tried to keep it. But the other guy who was playing the paraplegic guy, he like didn't give a fuck. After they were done filming, he would always be in the basketball
Who
court. And there's
signed
some
off to make this movie? That's just my like. Who that sound like? If I brought that into like if I got that script and I was told to like you report on it, I'd be like, there's I just read the log line, no more. Like
you know,
that's
I
that's
don't
all you
know.
need to know. We should not do this. This is
I didn't watch the
wow.
movie. It was based on another. I think it was based on like another film that was like the same, but they just redid it the American way. It was like from a different country. Okay, but back to this. So it was a buddy comedy. It's like a driving, and of course the blind guy drives because the paraplegic guy and the quadriplegic guy can't use their legs, so they're driving
The
most of the movie.
blind guy's driving,
Yeah, and they have to
and
like
and
steer
like
him.
how can he? And he just doesn't hit anybody. Like that just he
Well,
doesn't.
you know, I wouldn't know because I got kicked off before. There was a scene where they rented a highway, like a stretch of a highway, and then the day they were doing stunts for that scene, it did torrential rain and they had to shut it down that day. So that was great. But so the car that they were using for the
I'm
camera,
sorry.
it
This
was
is
supposed to be a
just
busted,
preposterous.
like rundown van, right? And instead of just getting a normal van and then just having art department make it look like that, no, they actually got a busted rundown van, and it was my job to drive it to all the different locations. So like we drove to Waukegan one day. And also, my
Uh,
phone's GPS didn't work because it's my phone is an iPhone 6 and I've had it for 5 years. And so I told them like, hey, my GPS doesn't work very well, so sorry if I get lost. This car, this van, it was like a big, it wasn't a Volkswagen, but it looked like one of those Volkswagen like vans. The I came into set one day and the art department, someone in art department was trying to glue the rear view mirror back on with glue. And she was like, "Can you hold this?" I'm like, "Okay." And I stood there and I held it for like 5 minutes and like she's like, "Okay, let's see if it stays on." I let it go and it just fell. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work. And then the steering was messed up, so like it just would just veer to the left all the time. You had to like pull it to the right. And the gas gauge was broken, so you never knew how much gas you had. And it did run out of gas while someone was driving it down the highway. And so I had to drive it. I would get lost. Couldn't find the steering. It was really big. And they told me in the beginning, like, if you don't feel comfortable with something, just let us know. So I told them, hey, I really don't feel comfortable driving this car. Um, is there any way I can not do that? And they're like, we need all hands on deck. So then they had me driving another Sprinter van. Um, but yeah, and then one day after I had gotten fired, some other DePaul people were on it, and I saw in someone's story, and I was like, oh, what's going on with the shoot? And they're like, oh yeah, the truck stalled one day and almost killed everybody inside because it almost got hit by a semi truck. They were just driving and it stalled in the middle of traffic. And then
Oh
one
my
day it
god.
died in the middle of the highway when someone was trying to come back to the city from Waukegan, which is like an hour ish away. It ran out of gas because the gas gauge was always on empty and you never knew how much gas you had. So yeah, but I got fired about 2 weeks into it. They said, you're just like, well, they ran out of money because they kept paying the PAs overtime because we were working 14-hour days and they ran out of money, so they had to let somebody go. So they fired me. They also fired the AD who went to DePaul, who's a DePaul grad student. And granted, he did a really bad job. Some ADs, good ADs, they motivate you and they're like, okay, we need to do this now. But he was just like, he would just yell. He would just yell at everybody. And like, he'd be like, I need all PAs over here. And then we'd be there and he's like, why are you guys over here? I need you over here. It's like, there's literally three of us. We can't be at 20 places at once. So yeah, I
Well,
got fired.
all of that comes from just like most of the terrible or like the just the poor conditions that PAs have to endure are a result of bad planning by the line producer or the producer. It's just a
They were
bunch of it
just,
is like they didn't know what they were getting into fully.
they were skimping on the money because they really needed like a 10-person PA crew. But they had a
Sure.
lead PA and they had like three other PAs. So it wasn't enough. So yeah, I got fired and I was so happy. Like so I did show up to work late one day, but it wasn't okay. It was kind of my fault, but so I lived at home this summer. Like this was the summer before I moved into the city because I also I used to commute from Woodridge to downtown every day to go to school. So I didn't have an apartment yet, but I was looking for an apartment that summer. So I lived at home, right? So I had to take the train every day. But the train stopped running, the metro stops running at a certain time. So that night I had to drive Gabrielle Sidibe back to her hotel and I told them like, hey, can I please? Yeah, I know, I drove her. It
Oh,
was
that's
weird.
kind of cool. I mean, look, I mean, because okay, Gabrielle Sidibe, that's Precious.
Hmm.
She did Precious. Okay,
Hmm.
so that is did she win an Oscar for that? I'm trying to think.
I think so. She definitely got recognition for it because that movie's fun.
Yes. Um, I
But
mean, I think that's cool. But
I
I'm
mean, it
sorry.
was kind of
I mean,
cool, but
so what
honestly,
happened?
the coolness was really lost on me because I was so tired. I was falling asleep on my feet, and they wanted me to drive the busted van home, and I told them, "This is a hazard. I am actually falling asleep on my feet right now, and if I drive this, I will crash and die." So they're like, "Fine." And also, they so I would have to. So most days I couldn't get my parents' car because I don't have my own car, and I had to borrow it from my parents. And I told them I didn't have my own transportation, so sometimes I'd have to get rides with people and like take the blue line home.
Mhm.
And one day when we went to Waukegan, I had to drive there somehow. And then they wanted me to drive one of the production vehicles back. And I'm like, I'm not going to leave my mom's van at this random park in the middle of the night when we're not even filming here the next day. Like, how does this work? So I told them no. But yeah, and so they fired me. And I was so happy. Like, I was trying to hide my happiness. They're like, so we have some bad news. I'm like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, yeah, we're firing you. Sorry. I was like, oh, that's too bad. Oh no.
Oh shucks.
And that was really the beginning. So, fun fact about me, I don't really like film.
That's
So,
a very weird thing to admit on a film podcast. Yeah, no, but
okay,
explain.
I don't like being on set for I definitely don't like being on set. That really solidified for me. I just don't like I've been on good shoots before. There's some shoots that I've been on, and they were always shoots that were led by like women, people of color, queer folks, where everyone just felt really welcoming, and it was like really nice. Um, but like the hierarchy, especially with this professional shoot, like it just felt so like there was like a specific like, oh, you can't talk to me because I'm blah 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 blah. You know, it was just so like I hate that. You know, yes,
People
there.
got really like power hungry in their position. Like they felt like they could act a certain way towards people.
Yeah, like I just the AD kept screaming at everybody. I mean, he did get fired too because he just did a bad job.
He was just an asshole. Sounds like.
Yeah, it was kind of awkward. I felt kind of bad for him because I'd worked on him on another project where he was AD and it was fine, but this was his first feature and he was also a DePaul grad student, so it was his first feature ADing, and he got fired off of it. So I don't know if he still does AD work, but yeah, I don't. Well, I definitely don't like being on set. That's for sure. Unless I when I'm if I'm not doing sound, I'm sort of okay being on set. Like the one time when I shot when well, I didn't shoot my music video. I produced and was like in it for
Hmm.
my video Raisin, and that was a great set. I mean, well, one I was also on there with my friends too, but it was just really well run and everyone was really nice and it was just a great environment. That was cool. But just in general, there's just like this hierarchy and like, oh, I'm better than you because I know more and you're blah 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 blah. And like I don't like that. And then just film in general, I don't just I don't watch a lot of movies either. Um I think me being in film school made me dislike film, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, okay, but I'm not even sorry about that. Like I should have gone to music school. I almost went. I was going to go to music school, and I'm actually glad I didn't. Okay, I'll say this: I'm glad I went to film school, and I'm glad I learned what I did because I have a lot of skills, and I, you know, can compose and mix and sound design and do all this stuff by myself. So I get more like freelancing is a lot easier because people ask for certain things. I'm like, oh, I can do it all. So that's good.
Right.
I'm glad I went to film school. And I'm glad I didn't go to music school because all my friends who went to music school are like one of my close friends, he plays the drums and he graduated the same year as I did. He's like, well, I've learned how to play jazz drums and that is my only skill. And he doesn't have a job and doesn't know what he's doing. He can only basically teach people. And then gigs are like how we make our living. And well, gigs are not really happening
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, gigs for a jazz drummer is not accessible
No.
right now.
So that's, I'm glad that I have more skills. And I'm definitely a musician first. I mostly do films. Well, I also really do like film scoring. I sound design because it's something I can do and like it makes money. But I do like composing, and I recently worked on this project where I like composed like theme music for this gala for this theater company in New York, and that was really fun and but also hard because like they were like, okay, can you give us 3 songs, and they gave me a weekend to do it, but then they paid me a lot, so I was like, okay, I'll fine. But yeah, so I love like when it comes to film and music, I really do enjoy scoring and creating new sounds and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, just film in general. I don't watch a lot of movies, or I just have a hard time finding stuff that I'll like. I'll just like go on Netflix and browse. I mostly when I'm on Netflix, I spend all my time just looking at stuff and not actually watching it. I just like look at the descriptions, watch the trailer, and I'm like, okay.
The tyranny of choices, as I like to call that. Like it's like
I'm,
you have too many choices, so it's like would rather just I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I think that's fair.
mhm.
Um,
I
and
mean,
I,
maybe it's the absence of movie theaters too, because I do like going to them. Like that is a
right.
great experience. The big screen does make films better. And just the difference between that and like, okay, I'm gonna watch it on my laptop. I mean, I have nice speakers, but like, still a tiny screen. It's not the same.
Yeah. No, it's not like watching a really great film that would play really well on a screen, and then watching it on a laptop is depressing. That's a
Mm-hmm.
depressing demotion.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, but okay, I want to get to you right now.
Okay.
I want the people to know what you do because I know that you obviously you make your own music, you compose, um, you compose film scores, and actually, it makes sense that you decided to do music and you decided to you dabbled in directing, but then it seems like you then sort of came back to sound design and music and film scoring because I knew you when we went to the same high school.
Yes, we did.
We did, yeah, which is really interesting. Down South, It's a
Go
place.
Mustangs.
Go Mustangs! Yes, Mustang Way. Um, and you, again, you obviously there was no film program at Downers Grove South,
Mhm.
but there was a thriving music program, and you were like, from my perspective, you seem like a prodigy. You seem like someone who just music came very easy to them, and because you obviously you were a very talented singer, you composed. I think you won like competitions. I mean I'm kind of loading for you right now, but like you won some like IMLEA stuff, like that's like the
Mhm.
Illinois Music Education Association award stuff. So obviously I knew you, and then I had heard from a friend that you also went to DePaul when I started going to DePaul, and I'm like, what does she do? She's like, well, she's in sound and she makes music. I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Obviously, makes sense
Mhm.
that she's doing that. Um, how? And I've always wanted to ask a composer this, someone who's composing, and this doesn't have to apply necessarily to how you go about film composition. This can be how you just would approach any song or anything that you're working on. How, like, composing music baffles me because I wouldn't know where to start. And obviously, I don't have the understanding of how melodies and just sequences of notes string together, like how that works, intervals. I don't get that because I'm not a musician. I tried that
Okay,
shit,
well then what happened to
didn't work
Mr.
out.
Hello Dolly lead role, okay?
Okay. I don't want to get off topic, but I'll just say rather quickly. I don't know how to say. I was the lead in a musical,
But you
but
don't know.
that doesn't no. But here's the thing: I could carry like I had tonality in my voice, but I had a very hard time keeping in tune. So a lot of times, like when I did that one song for the musical, I did a very like conventional like old same timey like Broadway singing voice that's like anyone can
Mhm.
mimic. So I did that. The reason why I did that show is because like I could act. Like that was the role like that was the only reason like I was even a part of that. But I'm not here to talk about that. Because
You had to be shallow.
I'm really interested in just the process of composition and specifically with film, like composing a film. How do you start that? How do you start that process?
That's a great question. Well, honestly, there's really no set way. I compose film music and then also my own music that I write. I do it all differently each time. I don't like have a I always do start on the piano. Like piano's my my main non-vocal instrument is what I play. Um, so I'd say for film, let's see, let's take an example. I know you interviewed Doris on here, which I did composing for one of her films, Red Thread. I don't know if you saw that thing she made.
I did see that. That
Hmm.
yes, that was actually before she did DP'd on the climb. That was what me and Jimmy saw of hers, and that's what got us to do
Mm,
that.
nice. Well, I don't know. Hopefully you saw the version that I did the sound design for, because there's one that she sent to Premiere, and that was like I had just finished the music, but it was too late for us to submit it to Premiere with my version. But I did redo all the sound for that, and like for that, it was definitely I just kind of like I kind of I honestly just sit at the piano and just like play random shit. Like I just play random ass stuff and I'm like, "Okay, this sounds kind of cool." Then I'll take voice memo on my phone. I have like 400 voice memos of song ideas on my phone so I can remember it if I'm not about to record it just then. And I just kind of riff on what I think will work. Sometimes I'll make a completely through composed song. That's sometimes harder depending on like the type of film. Like for Doris's thing, that was music throughout and it was short. But other stuff, when there's like dialogue and stuff and it's not completely all the way through, then I'll just kind of my scoring is a lot of piano based when it's Well, generally when it's more like dialogue, drama type stuff, I'll do more piano bass. But if it's like abstract, like horror, then I love doing that because I love to find just really weird sounds and like instruments on like Logic and other plugins that I have and just like shape them into really soundscapey type sounds.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't know, just from traditional like songwriting, I this is wow, I'm so bad at describing this because I really just sit down and just do it, you know?
So when you're at the piano, say someone asks you to start thinking about a film score,
Mhm.
what are you looking for when you start? Like, is it just like a theme? Are you just like starting like, okay, what's a theme that I'm going for, or just like what's the like vibe I'm going for? And then you just kind of start
Yeah,
esting
I
out.
definitely try to have a musical motive and like a common theme, some kind of thing that repeats or shows up in different ways throughout. And then I also do take into account the mood um, of the scene. I also try not to be too on the nose about it. That's something that Rob definitely taught in his scoring class of like, you know,
What do you mean not being too on the nose about it?
like if it's a sad scene, I'm not gonna be like dramatic sad piano. I'll play like more isolated notes throughout. Like underscoring for me, since I generally do more piano, I can do orchestral type stuff, but I prefer to do more pared down like piano and like soft, sort of like very soft strings that you can like almost barely hear. I try not to be too like, if the emotions in the scene are rising and like it's sad or someone's yelling, I'm not gonna like immediately bring the mood up to make it melodramatic. I don't want it to feel like a soap opera. Like the
Right.
soap opera music, I want it to still fit the mood of the scene, but not, I don't want the music is supposed to make the audience it's just supposed to aid the audience of what the feelings of the scenes are, not make them feel a certain way. Unless that's what the intent is. Sometimes music is the indicator of like, oh, you're supposed to feel this way. But I think it's like it's just supposed to be an aid to the scene and not the crutch of the scene. Though sometimes there are some stuff where music does help fix it, make it
Well,
better.
I think it depends on the scene because there well like
Mhm.
when like say there's a really dramatic dialogue scene, you don't want, I think what you're saying is completely correct, you don't want it to like, at least from how I enjoy music under dialogue scenes, it should be giving me the vibe, like it should be aiding in the vibe of what this conversation means, but it's not like this is tumultuous. Let's put tumultuous sounding music under this. So then you just feel more and more. It's like, no, no, I'm getting that from what they're saying. I don't need you to like double down on it. But say
Exactly.
like opening crawl of Star Wars, nothing's happening other than just words crawling up. So you need that like, like you need that triumphant thing to make you feel a certain way.
Hmm.
So
Exactly. Yeah, and it's no, you're exactly right, and that's something that I definitely take into account. I do find it easier to score films that have less dialogue or just like not as much because you know not as much stuff like or like the like Doris's film for example, which I bring that up just because I really like that film. It's more experimental. There's voiceover, but the music is I kind of treat it like a music video. Um, and so yeah, with that one, I just like sat down at the piano and I just recorded. I used an actual piano. Normally, I use my keyboard and I use like MIDI. But I think then I just like went to the School of Music and used one of their grand pianos and I just put some microphones in it and recorded. Um, and just I didn't even. So I really should have like actually looked at the timing of the video, but I just kind of played whatever and I made up this song. And then once I brought it into Logic, I like chopped it up and like added more sections to it. Because timing is also one thing that's hard, especially with music. Like you have to be careful of like, okay, you want it to do a certain thing here and like changes here, but if it's like in the wrong part, like you can't just, if it's in the middle of a beat, you're not just gonna, okay, change right here. No, you have to kind of tailor it specifically. So that can be a little bit difficult. Um, yeah, so my approach to scoring, I really just kind of sit there, I play through whatever part I'm working on a number of times and just like play the piano over it and then see if I do anything noteworthy. Or I'll just hit record and just play. And then if I'm like, oh, I like this here, then I might hone in on that idea, see if I want to add more, change the texture of it. So I kind of do it that way. Now write my own music completely differently. Like usually I write my lyrics first. I just have a bunch of no, well, I don't know, it depends. Sometimes I'll have an idea because I'm a jazz singer and like improv is something that comes really easily to me. So I'll just make something up or I'll just be like riffing whatever and I'm like, "Ooh, I like that." Or I'll come up with like a certain lyric or something
So do you
and
think that's why you do it that way? Because you have that jazz background? Do you think that's the
yeah,
influence?
probably because I know some people like actually write out their music and like I mean I can, but like I never do that shit. Like if I had other people playing instruments, which I'm hope to do more of, but I really do everything myself and I just find good instrument patches on Logic that sound more realistic. But sometimes I do have um well the most I'll do like I the most recent client I was working with, like I said, I composed some theme music for them. And that was really hard actually because it had to be exactly 5 minutes. Um and well, I had to make 3 songs, but, like, the main one had to be exactly 5 minutes, and then I just took parts of the song that I made and turned it into the other ones, and I I just had to keep like, I did it very weird because normally I'll create the whole song and know all the different sections, but for that one, I was like, "Alright, this sounds good," and I look at it, I'm like, "Oh, I'm only at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so I have to add more," and I just had to keep adding chunks, but I tried to make sure that it brought back to the same theme so it didn't just feel random, which I really liked what I made. It turned out really good. And like I had my friend play the drums on it, but I did everything else myself. And that was really fun. Also, it was easy because I didn't have to score it to anything. It was just like music for like a countdown screen. Um, but yeah, that's why I kind of just let my ideas flow. But that also is really hard to do. It's way easier to work on things when I'm inspired, but I find myself being more inspired to come up with just like new cool ideas when it's like for my own songs. When I'm scoring, I just kind of like I hit writer's block really easily when I'm scoring actually, and I have to kind of just I'll if I change the instrument or like try something new, then that usually helps me to continue getting ideas to flow. But it's definitely easier for me to write my own songs than to score films.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think when you're making a song, that's like you. That's like
Mhm.
purely yours and your intent and what you're trying to whatever thought or idea or thing you're trying to invoke with your song, that's all coming from you. Whereas when you get a film and you gotta score that, you're trying to produce themes that someone else has brought forth and wants you to either enhance or to accentuate or to, make the audience feel.
Mhm.
Um, that no, that just that baffles me. Like sometimes writing a script and getting myself prepared to do that baffles me, and that's like my thing. I'm sorry, my phone. Like that's what I do, but I can't even imagine.
I feel like writing
Sorry,
music
with
for me,
notes.
writing music is way easier than writing a script. I mean, with music, you can just do whatever. Like that's another thing. We were talking about genre in the very beginning, and this is something I'm like so serious about. One, there's no such thing as good music or bad music. It's just music. Same with hold
Well,
on.
like someone can like not know how to make music and not know the relations between notes and how they work chromatically, and then just start like doing shit, and then it's
Okay,
like,
but let me tell you something though, because I did an internship at an experimental studio where people sat through performances of people just banging on the piano for an hour, and they were so invested and loved it, like we sat through one
What?
performance. Yo, yeah, there
Like they
was
just like it was literally just like
well,
whatever.
he wasn't just he was like he was improvising. It was free jazz music sort of. And then there was one, this guy the whole time he shoved he had an upright bass, and he shoved LaCroix cans in between the strings and was just scraping it the whole time. This one where this
Oh,
lady was an opera singer, and she just like made these weird percussive spitting noises with her mouth while this lady played the flute and just like was like sort of like beatboxing with the flute, but it was not any beat. It was just like her like and then, we had some lady playing the drums, and she had like all these different symbols and random stuff like LaCroix. We had a lot of LaCroix lying around in the studio, so they would just take LaCroix cans and like use that, and she would be crushing stuff up and just hitting things. Um, Someone had like bird sounds that they had recorded, and they just like played them as a dancer interpreted the bird sounds, and then a video of the dancer projected on a screen. Oops, sorry. Yeah, projected on a screen of the video of the dancer, and somebody was like manipulating the visuals while the guy with the audio was just like doing distorting sounds of birds and nature. Like there is a niche for
niche.
everyone, like so somebody may listen to that and be like, this slaps. And like I tried, okay, I've tried really hard to get into like free and experimental music. you know One of my ex-boyfriends was really into free jazz, and I went to a couple free jazz shows to be like, all right, let's try it. And I would just sit there like, whoo boy, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Am I supposed to like this? Am I
I
supposed to
know.
feel something?
I remember I went to this one show, and this guy, it was this dude playing the drums, and this guy playing like, he was playing like a bass clarinet and the saxophone, and I was like just sitting there the whole time like, and then after he finished, he like walks up to me, he's like, so I noticed you looked a little confused. And I was like,
I noticed that you weren't like fully getting what I was putting down.
and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what that was supposed to be. He's like, oh, that's okay. But like some people are sitting there, like my ex-boyfriend, he was sitting there just like jamming out. And I'm like, what are
He was
you?
loving it.
Oh, he
He
loved
was like
it.
fully invested.
He was into it. And I was like, okay, you go you, I guess.
I
you know?
I I truly believe that there like you like as you were saying like you could try something like that and there's gonna be at least someone out there who kind of digs it, who kind of likes it. Like
Exactly.
there's someone. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be a lot of people, but like there's someone that might like your stuff.
That's why I'm saying, and even if I don't like it, like my thing is I am able to with like I sometimes well I used to my friend had this newsletter, and I used to like do little music reviews and stuff, and I tried to be objective in the reviews. Like I will objectively review it and then personally review it, like I can dislike a song or an album but understand that it's well done and like know that it's good. I just don't like it myself. Or same with a movie. Like a lot of actually I really dislike a lot of movies where I'm just like, it was good, but like I didn't like it. It was
Yeah,
just not my style. And I think
happens
that's
all the
something.
time. That's like
Yeah. And
most movies that I see. I'm like,
yeah.
ah, it's fine. It was well made. Didn't
Hmm.
hit me, but like,
Yeah, and that's like okay. And I think that sometimes people hone in on like, oh, I have to love it. That's a lot of music reviewers. Like you ever watch Anthony Fantano's YouTube videos? That
no,
bald guy
I've
that
not.
reviews music. Well, I hate his reviews because he's always very like he hates everything except for like a few artists. So he's like, this is still good, but like you know, I just I prefer a more objective look of like, okay, this was a good album. It wasn't my genre. I don't like this style, but it was, it was a good song or whatever. So
Person clearly tried or had artistic intent behind it. It just wasn't speaking to me.
exactly. And so I think that's something that I forgot what we were talking about before this. Like as we got into this, I was like, oh, genre,
So on
and
genre, we were going back to this idea that genre is just a thing, which it
yeah,
is.
but what did I say before that to lead into this? What were we talking about? Oh my
Uh,
god.
uh,
Oh, I was talking about my scoring process.
Yes,
Oh,
we were
and then
talking about
we
your
were
storing
talking.
process, and I said like I'm just baffled at the idea of just like someone just like knowing where to begin, like just starting the process of doing that, and just like you're just saying like, oh, I just like go on the piano and I just like try some shit. Like, where's that come from? I mean, obviously, it just must be like you have just this understanding of it, but like,
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was. Okay, my mind. So what I was gonna say is like I think anyone can make music, and like there's this like idea, especially in academia, where I don't know as much in film school, but definitely in music school, where it's like if you don't know, like personally, I'm not very good at theory actually. I mean, I know basic music theory and like mid-level music theory, but I took some music classes my last year of school, and like, oof, I was a little lost. And my musician friends are way better. I have some piano friends who play the piano who like I only wish I could play like they can just improvise a whole song and it sounds amazing. And like they'll just, they'll do crazy solos and I can do that singing, which
mm-hmm,
I think that voice is kind of one of the easiest instruments sort of because you can just do it without knowing what you're doing, but like other instruments you actually have to like learn how to play. And piano is pretty easy too when it comes to technique because you just hit the buttons, but it's hard because to be good at it you have to actually be really good for people to recognize it.
right,
um but like I think that anybody can make music, and so that ties into genre. Like just because like nobody cares about your credentials really. Not a single person that I've been doing these freelance gigs for has asked me, "So what's your degree in?" It's like, "Can you do this? Can you make
right,
music?" Yeah. Okay. And
cool.
even if people that can't, there's so many people that are successful in music that don't know shit about music and they don't know what they're doing and they're like multi-million dollar recording artists. And like sure they'll learn as they do more, but like they definitely started off like I don't know what I'm doing. I just got lucky. And then there's some people that do have amazing talent and then also use that. Um, but yeah, I think that's like as with genre, knowledge of music, it doesn't have to be like you're a prodigy. Like if you like it, then that's great. Just do it. Try something. You don't even have to put it out into the world for people to hear it. You can just try it. Yeah, so I just hate pretentiousness in film and music. Like those are some of my biggest pet peeves is people act like, oh, if it's not this, then it's not good. Like, I've gone through film school 4 years and having a degree, and I've never once watched Citizen Kane, and I will never watch that movie. Like,
Is
have
there
you
a
watched that?
reason why you'll never watch this again? Is it because
Because
it's because people are too pretentious about it?
I don't want to, and I just got lucky that none of my professors made me watch it, and I just
That's
don't.
very lucky because,
I
well,
know you have my history
I
of
like
genre.
Citizen Kane. I just think it's well made. I don't love the
That's
film.
totally fine.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
I'm not a big I don't really like old movies, but just because I get really nitpicky, like well, you know what? Another reason why I don't watch other movies, because I just like I'm a black woman, and I think I know maybe one other black person in the film school at DePaul, and I just get really tired of just seeing white dudes in films, so I just don't watch movies if it's led by white people or if it's not a diverse cast and crew. You know, that's just something that I don't do. So I don't watch a lot of old movies because I'm just like, you know, I'm, I'm sure it's great and it's definitely taught people a lot through film, but like I just don't want to see it. I'm just not interested. So I mean, some people may look at that, and same with music. Not actually not as much. Same with music, though I don't listen to it. It's just I never grew up listening to like classic rock or anything. I only listened to gospel music when I was younger.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't listen to a ton of older music, and with jazz school, like there is so much pretentiousness. Also, I was one of I want to say 10 women in a no 7 women in a 60-person program. So there were like literally barely any women in the jazz school, and it was all very like pretentious. They're like, you have to listen to this artist, or you don't know jazz. You have to listen to the law, and I'm like, can we just like
Yes.
listen? There's stuff that yes, you want to learn for your certain instrument and to get a better knowledge of it, but like you don't have to shame people for not listening to specific stuff. Like it's just music.
Right.
So yeah, that's my thoughts, that's really what I take issue with academia a lot because I feel like it does stifle creativity. And just like you were saying, you learn stuff on the job in film school. And in music, you learn, you can learn your theory, but you get experience by playing gigs and playing with your peers, you know? And it's not
Right.
just about the classroom. The classroom, fundamental techniques, okay, cool, good to know. But like from above that, like honestly, I feel like the my junior and senior year, other than for film, the sound design classes I took, like it was really unnecessary. Like I would have been fine just being on set a couple times, working on people's projects, and that was it. But so I do have some issues with academia, and I'm very glad that I've graduated. And I'm sure when you graduate, you will also be very glad.
Oh, I know I will be ecstatic when I'm. I'm already there. Um, this pretentiousness that you speak of, I definitely, well, one, I think it's definitely true,
Mhm.
especially when you go to a film school or any art school. And I think what we were talking about earlier, my whole issue with art schooling, in a sense, I think that pretentiousness is a huge part of it. Just and even with like with writers, like writers will be like, you have to write in a certain way, or you should only have this much dialogue in the movie, or you should only like who who are you, like, are you the guy, or are you the person who has like the book of all the rules of like what a movie should be? You realize we're still figuring that out. We don't
That's
know everything that a movie can be yet. that's
no, that's
why
why.
that's why experimentation is still a thing to explore.
Mhm.
It's just like people act like they're like, okay, well, this is how it's done and there's no other way. And I will say, as far as inspiration goes, I did have this one film professor who did my film aesthetics class. um his name was Andrew. I'm gonna fuck up his last name. Stuff.
Yeah,
It's an
Stacilius?
S. It's like a Stelius.
Stacilius.
Stilius. We'll just say that.
No,
He's
it's Stacilius, yes, the bald guy.
Cecilius.
Hmm.
Cecilius. Okay. He was the best professor I've ever had.
Really, that's
Just
so funny to
in
me because
general.
I've heard lots of stories. People either say he's the best professor they've had or the worst. No in between.
He no well, the why that is, he takes a very like hard stance on everything. And either he hits you the right way, or he totally gets you off board.
Yeah, one of my
Um
friends said that he called them a fascist because they liked Marvel movies. So,
he has a very and I mean, I don't think this point is, I he has a lot of interesting theories. Yes, he does think that, like, especially The Dark Knight is a fascist movie. I don't think The Dark Knight
that's
is a
one of my
fascist
favorite
movie.
movies, so he can I'll fight him. I'm just kidding.
I can see why there is like, there's this thematic notion of surveillance, and I think that's what in his argument, I feel like that's what he's saying on. Because remember, like, when Lucius, Morgan Freeman's character, like taps into all the people's cell phones, and they're able to like pinpoint
Hmm.
everything. I think what Andrew would say is like that is representative of the Patriot Act, of how we're surveilled and it's like a fascist state. And I think that that's not enough to just say that a film is fascist, in my
Okay, but
opinion.
yeah, that doesn't make it a fascist movie.
It's
That's just
not,
a
no, I don't think Christopher Nolan was trying to make fascist propaganda. But
yeah.
that's besides the point of where I brought this guy up.
It's Sicilius. Yes,
Um,
continue.
um, no, really he was. I loved him because he was like, what the fuck is the rule book? Like, because every other teacher kept trying to be like, well, if you want to make it in Hollywood, this is what you do. You got to make a film like this. You got to write like this. You got to follow this structure. And on a level, I understand why they're teaching us this, because it's true. A lot of Hollywood films have a very similar structure. It's good to know it because it's one of the most fundamental ways to tell a story ever. It's very helpful if you're a screenwriter. I get that. I'm glad I learned it. But at the same time, no one was telling me, hey, you want to make a film that's memorable, if you want to say something that matters, don't just try to do it the way that everyone else has done it. Like, take some liberties, take some risks. And he was the one professor that actually like really honed in on the fact of experiment, try shit, and if it fails, okay, cool, people don't like it. Try something like learn and like evolve as a artist. Like I wasn't hearing that shit, and that's the shit I wanted to hear when I came into film school. I wanted that because that's the inspiration. That's the one thing that you can get from film school that will like catapult you to where you want to go. And he was, I mean, and I've had other good professors. I don't want to say that he's the only good professor that I've had. Who was another? Wendy Roderweiss.
Oh, she's great. I love Wendy.
Very good, very great professor. Taught me so much about camera work, cinematography. Very great human being. Um, who else? I had an editing teacher, Martin Bernstein, who was an asshole, but he forced me to do good work. Do you know what I mean? Like he
Mhm.
wouldn't let me. I was like a freshman, and I didn't know anything. It was an editing class, and I didn't know anything about editing. So I just kind of like, oh, okay, so we'll do this, and we'll try this out. Okay, I don't really know what the fuck this is. I don't know how. I've never used this software before. And he was like, no, this is shit. Do it again.
Mhm.
And in the moment, I was like, fuck you. Why? I don't even know how to do this shit. Why are you being such an asshole? It's like, no, try stuff. Like go at it again. See where you can improve. See where you can figure other shit out and do something that is really going to capture someone's attention in a very purposeful way. Um, I've only had a few professors who have done that, and they've left an incredible like resonance on me. But I feel like
Mhm.
there's not enough of those.
No, definitely, I agree. Like that's how, like Rob is a good. I think really for me, it's when professors give really good critiques. Like Rob gave great critiques when it came to just music and scoring, and like I would come to him about projects even when I wasn't in one of his classes, or Travis, the other sound professor. He was just good at explaining technical stuff. Um, but yeah, like I remember another really terrible class I took was my freshman year. I had screenwriting one, and like this professor, have you ever heard Brian Mellon?
Ryan Mills,
He's
yeah.
actually he so what did you have him for like editing or VFX?
I had him for. I actually had him for two classes. I had him for film philosophy, and I had him for editing too.
He it wow. He's not a he's an editing and VFX teacher, but he just does other classes because like they need somebody. And this man one day he was like, "All right guys, we're going to learn how to write dialogue." And what did he do? He just showed us this the famous scene from Pulp Fiction with the say what again. And he's like, "All right, so do that." And then when we
I
were
used. That's it.
yeah.
You just said do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh,
He showed us some SNL clips and he's like, "These accents that they're speaking in are funny. You should try that." And so we wrote scripts, right? And like I wrote a script. And his only critiques for all the me and my friends who we all wrote scripts with like diverse characters and stuff, and like my script was about two sisters, and he's like, maybe you should add a love interest that they like fight over or something. And I'm just like, this story is about a sister relationship and about their dynamic. Why would I add a love interest? His like critiques were always just add a love interest. And then he didn't even give any feedback. He just like our final paper, which was our final script, he just checked it off. And then one of my friends didn't even turn in her paper like I think 3 weeks after, and he was like, "Hey, you never turned in your final." She's like, "Oh, sorry, here you go." She gave him like a half asked like not even finished thing and she still got 100%. So it's really those classes where the professors don't even look at the stuff and don't care that makes me so mad because it's like I am not paying this much money for you to literally do nothing, you know?
no, that's half of their job. Half of
Exactly.
their job is to give you like tangible critiques so that you get feedback and then you can reassess upon what you're doing and how you're going about things.
Yeah, you can
That's
really
like
tell
their
which
job.
ones you can tell which ones kind of and like okay, I get you it's a stable way to make money because you get teaching jobs continuously while you're working on your own art, and a lot of people that are professors really do it so they can use the free equipment. But like I
I
just
mean,
I don't
that
know.
makes sense.
It does, but like still, if you're gonna teach, like try. Like, would you want
Oh
a
yeah, no.
professor to like even just come up there and be like, "All right, so just do this and film, yeah, woo." Like, no, that's so stupid. So
No.
yeah, that made me kind of mad. But most of my professors were all right, and I had the good ones where I actually learned things, and then the ones where I was like, okay, this class is fine. It's not terrible. Like they're actually engaging, but I just wasn't really interested in the subject. Once I finished taking my film classes, I just subbed out every other class that I had to take because I didn't want to do it, and Rob let me, so it was nice.
Yeah. No. I mean, honestly, just you just gotta make sure that when you do find a professor that really speaks to you, listen to everything that they have to say. Like really soak it in. And I don't want to like I don't want to make anyone everyone who's watching this who goes to film school feel like they're wasting their time completely. You're not
Yeah, no,
wasting. You're
if
not. You're
you
not completely
exactly.
wasting your time.
It's not for
No.
everybody, but if you like it and that's what you want to do, it is beneficial. Like I've made so many connections. Like the most recent gigs that I've been getting that have been paying real good money, I got from working on a couple sets from like years ago with some girl who was producing that I sort of knew but didn't know, and then she was like, "Oh, somebody's looking for this person," and you just get like the recommendations and the connections you make will definitely come back. Like if you're a good, like if you're just obviously stand up for yourself, but like if you work well with people and are nice and do decently good work, it doesn't even always have to be the best work, but like if you do decently good work, somebody will probably call you up for a gig or something and you'll get more stuff. I mean, so it definitely does have its beneficial elements, and I am glad that I went because I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't go to, well, I mean, in college in general. I'm just not interested in anything else really other than like film, music, and like now like Marxism and economics, but I'm not even that interested. Economics are like confusing. Okay, I read Marx and I was confused. I was like, what? I just want people to have healthcare. He's talking about all this numbers shit. I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh
I
my gosh.
but I'm more interested in that kind of stuff. Film, music, well,
Yeah.
mostly music, but
Most music. I mean, you
yeah,
are a musician first.
exactly.
You
That
know.
is my first, when people ask what I do, I say I'm a musician and a producer, music producer. But yeah, so I'm glad I went to film school because who knows, I really don't know what I would have done. And I've made so many connections, musicians and film people alike. So yeah, I mean, I'm still $25,000 in debt, but debt might be getting canceled under Biden, so I'm not even mad about that.
25,000 now. Well, yeah. Shit. Yeah. Student debt is whack. Um.
Yeah, I'm not paying that shit. I'm sorry. If the feds are watching this, I didn't say that.
Oh,
I'll pay like $20 a month for the rest of my life. I don't care. I'm not paying it all off, or I'm not dropping a whole bunch. I'm trying to like
well, yeah. I
wait.
mean, I mean, listen. I mean, yeah. I mean, you should be able to like just siphon that shit off. Like,
Yeah, but I'm just kind of waiting until they actually cancel debt so I don't like spend a bunch of money paying it. I'll just pay a little bit, even if it goes up
yeah, but
eventually.
but this is what politicians do. They like make that promise, and it doesn't
And
happen.
then,
I'm not convinced
well,
that that's going to be a thing.
I'm holding out. I saw some stuff on Twitter the other day about Biden maybe forgiving like $50,000 of loans for people, like each person. And I was like, all right, listen, Biden, I don't really like him that much. Obviously, I'm glad he's gonna be the president, but please pull through. Like we need this
Well,
because I don't got time to be paying all that. So, but that's another
I
story.
I think that would help a lot of people out in
It
this time
really
if they
would.
did
It
that.
really would.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so film school has its pros and cons, and I'm
But
still
in
learning.
summary, film school has its pros and cons. Yeah, I really do. It really do though. It's yeah. I I've said enough about film school. I don't want to talk about film school.
We've roasted DePaul enough.
We've
We don't
roasted.
care
We
about
have
it.
gone after the system enough.
Yeah.
My question that I have for you, and honestly, it's one that I've had for there's really one that I have for any composer. One, what's the hardest part about composing? And two, like what well, let's just start off with that. What's the hardest part about composing?
Um, I think the hardest part is like finding the balance between too much and not enough of like textures. And also, well, I don't know. Maybe that's
Texture. What do you
one.
mean? Okay, what do you mean by texture? Is that like harmonies? Like
Not
other
even
like
harmonies, just like because I'm my stuff is very piano heavy, and I am very. I notice that a lot, and I'm like, okay, I want to try different textures, like try different instruments or like strings. Like if I do something that's very string heavy, I'm like, okay, I like this, but I'm gonna add another layer, like a counter melody to like add some interest. And I'm like, ooh, because I'm a big like if you listen to any of my music of my own personal music, I'm a big harmonies person. Like I add layers and layers and layers.
mm-hmm.
That's just my thing. I'll like use, you know, my voice as an orchestra because some of my orchestra plugins are trash. But so I like adding layers and like counter melodies and stuff to really bring more interest to it. But I'm like, okay, especially in film, I'm like, okay, is this too much or this not enough? And then sometimes I'll go if I feel like it's too much, I'll just go really far back and just have like just piano. And then I'm like, okay, maybe this is not enough. You know, I think underscoring for me is hard. So when there's talking and I have to make music underneath it, I'm a little like, all right, is this gonna work? Like, am I gonna be too loud? Like, I mean, obviously it'll be mixed down, but like if it's too much going on in like whatever melody you're doing while people are talking, it gets distracting, you know? So like finding that balance, so texture and number of like just movement within like if the melody's too complicated, if there's too many fast moving notes, then it's like gets confusing. And let's see. With scoring in films that are I sometimes find it hard to like if I have it's just like writing an essay. When you already know you've written all that you want to say, but you still have to reach a page limit, then it's really hard to just like keep making more stuff. Um so if I
I've
have like
never thought of it like that.
yeah, because like if I come up with a melody idea and I'm like, oh, this is perfect, it's complete, but then I'm like, oops, I've got 30 more seconds of this section that needs more
Oh,
stuff.
that's gotta suck.
I mean, that's how it was with that project I was doing that had to be exactly 5 minutes. I just had to keep adding more and more chunks, and I would add like certain chunks, and I'm like, okay, I just loop it, and I'm like, oh, this is boring. It's repeating. So then I would change it and like add more stuff. Um, but sometimes it's really like what Rob taught me in like the scoring class that we took. Like even just the small act of like adding or taking away a certain element in a song is like really can be really really powerful and like still adds interest. Like I think a good example of a song, I don't know if maybe people have heard it. Do you know you listen to Daft Punk ever?
I do.
Do you know their song
Yes.
Voyager?
Yes.
I love that song. That song is great. If you listen to it, it's pretty repetitive, but like they'll take away certain elements, like they'll take away the beat, and then it's like, oh, when's the beat coming back? And then the beat comes back in, and it's like just as much hype as when the beat first came in because like they take away small parts and they just like leave it with like the little guitar riff and then they have the
Mhm.
bass line. So just picking apart these elements and putting them in different spots and then bringing it back together, like it has a really good effect and you can still do that in film. So if I need to repeat a section, I'll take something away or I'll like start it off with just like the main melody and then I'll add some other voices so that it doesn't feel like I'm repeating myself too much and it just adds more interest so you don't get bored. So that's another trick, but then of course, if it's like a long piece and it has to keep going, then that becomes a whole other thing. But yeah, so that is something just reaching that time limit and also knowing when to and to not put music in is really important because there's some parts where it's like, I'll watch it with music if I will when I get like a film or something, I'll like play a scene through and I'll play when like I'll just play whatever when I think there should be music, um, as like a placeholder. and then I'll kind of watch it back and be like, okay, so do I really need music here? And so then I'll maybe play a section back without music there, or see like when I should start. And I think that's super important, is like knowing when to start and stop the music. And sometimes that's, a lot of the times that's the director's call. But as the composer, I do have to make the call first as I'm making the music, and then maybe the director will be like, let's not have music here, which then, I'll take it out. But so yeah, that is something that is really hard, and just knowing, because there's no like rule book of like you should play music when this is happening and you should not play music when this is happening. Like it's just kind of a innate knowing of like, okay, this will aid the scene or this will not aid the scene. So yeah, I guess those, summing it up, time limits, knowing how much is too much or too little of different voices, and then um, knowing when there should be and should not be music. Those are my top three hardest things about scoring.
Okay. I don't. Yeah, no, that's the because every time, so like, because I've spent so much time, because I never I never in school I've never concentrated anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned a little bit about editing. I learned a little bit about sound design. I learned a little bit about G&E. I've learned a little bit about camera work. So like, what I think that has done is it's benefited me, because as a director I can, on set, I know what each kind of job, at least to an extent, requires, so that I can empathize with people and understand why they might need more time to get something done, or they need their process needs, I need to help them in their process in some way, make it easier for them to do their job, because I understand what they do. I'm not clueless, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't even begin to understand your job.
Well,
Like,
I
I
mean,
can't even start.
like what, post sound or just like,
Really, no, post sound, I think post sound is really fucking cool. I was watching an interview with Martin Scorsese, and they were talking about Raging Bull, and I've seen that film many times, and I didn't know this. In one of the scenes, one of the like actual boxing scenes, when shit's really going down, um literally, oh, I'm sorry, I got a Gmail. I'm turning this phone off right now. Shut off. Thank you. So I was watching this documentary. Not even a documentary. It was just like, I think Cambridge University was interviewing Martin Scorsese for like BAFTA or something,
mm-hmm.
and he was talking about Raging Bull, and they looked at one of the scenes, and Martin Scorsese commented like, "Yeah, our sound design was very experimental and very interesting. Actually, to heighten the drama and heighten the chaos of the scene, he threw in elephant noises that were supposed to mimic what the crowd sounded like, but it was just to add that weirdness and like that chaos of the moment. And then when you hear the clip, it's like, oh shit, yeah, no, those are elephants making noises, but it just blended in to the atmosphere, that you just thought it was just like a really crazy crowd going
Mm-hmm.
insane. I think the experimentation that goes into post sound, I kind of understand, but there's so many cool things that sound designers do in post that really just make the scene. Um, I kind of understand post sound. I don't understand composing music at all.
I mean,
Not at
they're
all.
kind of, well, I'd say post sound is, we can't really say what's easier or whatnot. For me, sometimes I get bored with post sound if I am just doing dialogue. It's like, okay, we'll EQ some dialogue and make it sound good. But I like doing post sound where I get to like be experimental and like add different elements, just like you're talking about. Um, but yeah, so post sound, also people, well, I guess when you get to the super professional level, I'd say I'm like a semi-professional. No, you have to start telling people you're a professional. You
Yeah,
just have
no,
to
you
start
you
doing it.
have to. Yeah, that's something that I really
It's
believe in.
hard.
It's like, once you like have to get into the business, you can't play the whole like, well, I'm kind of okay. You gotta like
Yeah.
just
So
say
as a
it, man.
professional, I'd
Yes.
say I still am at a point where like I know what I'm doing, but also I'm just like hitting random buttons, you know? And as my
I mean, you're experimenting because you don't know the answer right off the bat. You know.
exactly. And the best sound advice that my teacher gave me was if it sounds good, it is good, you know? There's not a specific rule book. Like there's definitely things that you can do to make your workflow easier, but like nobody's going to listen to your thing and be like, well, did you, have your stems this way and blah blah, and how did you export them? Like no, it's like, oh, this sounds good, you know? So
Yeah. Great.
that's kind of my philosophy. um, I find that music is more fun to work with just because I feel more creative. Sound design, you kind of work with what you've got. But still, I've had some sound design projects where I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna add in some weird stuff here," or I usually some of my music I add sound design elements and like different things, even in like non-scoring stuff like my own music. I'll put sound effects in there sometimes, or I'll like, one of my songs for the beat I like sampled. I was trying to make the song sound very Tim Burton-y, so I sampled a wind-up toy for the beat. Um, so you'll hear that on my new EP. But yeah, so I like
Do
do
you ever
stuff
do you
like
ever
that.
do that? Do you ever just like I want this thing to sound more just like this song?
For this album, or for this EP, I was definitely going more because my music, like my album that I'm working on, my 15 song album that I've been working on for the past 6 months, um, that is very like it's more, I would say it is alternative soul music. And that's kind of the music that people know me for making. But this EP is definitely, I was like going for different sounds. Like the first song that I have, it's got a very like orchestral, like marching beat, but then it changes into a bossa nova beat at the end, which is my personal favorite song. It slaps. Um, and then like one of them, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make this sound. I wanted it to sound like Coraline. Like I wanted you to watch it and be like, oh, I feel like I'm in
Oh,
Coraline.
I fucking hate that movie. But
Okay,
if
not
you
not
are
specifically
trying,
Coraline, but like Tim Burton.
no, no,
Like
no, yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, if you're trying to like make a song that's just like gonna unsettle and unravel you, that's the perfect movie.
well, it
Because
is the
that's
one.
that movie fucked me up as a kid.
Yeah, I didn't watch it as a kid.
Fucked
I
me
did
up.
watch it like last year, and I was like, "This is scary for a kids movie." Like,
This
I
is it's fucked up, bro.
yeah. So I was going for that. Like, I use a lot of like whistling and like music box sound effects and like a wind up toy as like the beat, and then the lyrics are about how capitalists are, or how big corporations specifically are destroying the environment. So yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
yes.
yeah, I've been, but this EP I was going more orchestral, and some people told me it sounded musical theater ish, which I was also going for. So I'm just trying to branch out, but I try to, I'd say my biggest like musical influences are, well, depends on what I'm making, but for this EP, my biggest musical influence was like Fiona Apple and sometimes Paramore, which is my favorite band. Um, so very like I don't even know. It's hard. Like saying what your inspirations are. Like I listen to a bunch of random shit, and it's not coherent at all. I'll go from listening to, you know, 100 gex to like freaking I don't know jazz music and like Ella Fitzgerald, Esperanza Spalding. There's no in between. So I just get inspired by whatever I get inspired by, and I never want to hold myself back to a certain genre. Like, after I make this EP and I'll make my album, my next project that I'm going to work on for my own music, I want to make do you know I want to make like a song with or an album with like a storyline set in like very futuristic. So I want to be using like only like synthesizers and like heavy autotune that sounds like an AI made it. Like the whole concept is that an AI like made an album. So I just want to switch it up, and then maybe I'll make a hip hop rap album. I'm not very good at rapping, but I'm good at writing raps. So we'll see. So I just never want to pin myself down to one thing. And also even when I'm composing film scores, that's why I like working with different genres. Personally, that's why I like working with horror because it's so fun because you can just kind of do like whatever. Like I scored
Yeah.
this one horror short film once, and like the like main theme, I found this really cool sound effect that was like the sound of somebody scraping their nails on a upright bass and like smacking the strings. And so like that was just like the theme of it was like just like really abstract sounds and like weird synths. I love that shit. It's so much fun to work with. I just love being super creative. So I feel like I can definitely be more creative in certain genres of film, you know?
I think your AI story, like an album that is a story, I
Mhm.
think that's really cool.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Like
very
what like
inspired by I'm a big fan of Janelle Monáe and 21 Pilots, and they do that with their music where they just have like storylines. I also used to listen to a lot of Green Day and like, American Idiot is like a rock opera. And just having like that storyline. I have also do you know what ARGs are?
ARG no.
So it's like an alternate reality game. There's lots of different mediums that people do this in. People make like YouTube videos or like make clues on like social media apps, all kinds of things where they'll have a piece of media. So like there's a short film company called Wham Studios, and they have videos that play on Adult Swim. So they make these like super weird short films, and then like you can people watch it and like they have no explanation, but if you look closely enough, like you can find like clues in there, and like it kind of there's like real life things that you can like learn. Like you can go to like a website and like continue finding more videos and like piecing together this story. Or like the movie Cloverfield.
Yes.
They do that in mostly in the second one, the Cloverfield Paradox, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh no, 10 Cloverfield Lane actually was the best one by out of all of them. But like they do that with their films. Like there's like a whole like story within the story, and if you watch it and like you can look up like one of the company names on the thing, like you can look up go to their website and like there's like clues and information of how you can figure out like, oh, where did the Cloverfield monster come from, and like it like you can go down the rabbit hole and like learn more and get more background on the story. And I think that's so cool. And I don't know if I'll necessarily do like an in-depth ARG because it's a lot of work and there's a lot of different areas that go into it. And you can do it in all kinds of ways. But like still having I want to do stuff like hiding like clues into like if people like looked at like the waves of like the song or something, like something where you like hide clues inside of the actual audio or something like
Wait,
that
so you mean like when you see a audio
file.
file on
I don't
on
know.
like a software, like you could actually see something in the
Well,
waves
okay, I
of
don't
the
know.
audio?
It's not the wave file. There's a specific thing, and I have to look it up. I don't know exactly what it's called, but there's a specific like way that you can look at like a file and like you can see like there's certain stuff that people have done it in ARGs where they like hid clues in like the way that the audio file looks under like this certain I don't even know what it's called, but it's like a something graph. But it's another way to display like the files and like that would be so cool to like put stuff in there. I don't know. That just excites me or like hiding like clues within the lyrics or the song um so that and I would just like say nothing. I wouldn't tell people that's part of it. This is kind of one of those things that I feel like would be best displayed. Well, I'd have to have like people that actually listen to my music first of all. um but like you know
Time will come.
yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, just people somebody would have to pick up on like, huh, there's something interesting about this and like look into it, and like that's how most ARGs start. People will see something and like that's weird. They'll like look into it and like then they find like interesting clues or something that leads them onto something, and then it kind of like picks up in the ARG community. So that's something I just love, you know, turning music into art and just doing all kinds of things with it. And also just I mean, I love the crossroads and I love music videos. Those are really fun. I actually watch more music videos than I watch movies. That's one of my favorite
Well,
most
music
famous.
videos can teach you how to make films.
Yeah, and there's some great music videos out there. So I think that's a really fun intersection of film and music, and the two music videos that I've worked on of my own music have been very fun to do. So that's just, that's where I want to, you know, things to go in that direction. But we'll see. I have to finish my other album first. That's like what I have to do because I've been
Right.
working on it for a while and I wrote those songs like 2 years ago. So gotta finish those. And then I'm starting another band with a friend, but we have to wait till after Corona ends, which who knows when that will be.
Well, God willing, that'll be done. Done.
I'm hoping by like summer we'll see some turnaround because like okay, I gotta move out of my parents' house.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's we're getting to a point where I think people have just had enough of it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we could even successfully keep this going without people just being like, we don't care anymore.
I mean, people have had
If I
enough of
get
it
sick,
at
I
the
get sick.
worst. Yeah, which is a terrible. I mean, this is the worst time to be having enough of it because, like, in the summer, people kind of had enough, but it wasn't this bad in the summer. But
Right. Well, in the summer was warm, you go outside, like
yeah, now, but also people are kind of trapped inside in the winter, which might help numbers go down because you can't really do anything, especially in the Midwest. Like, it's hopefully gonna snow, and then like what? You just sit in your house and okay, you're bored, but you're bored every winter when it snows like that. Mostly. Well, okay, not really, but you know what I mean. Like people go out
yeah,
less.
no, no, no. You start you reacclimate yourself to being like, okay, I'm not going outside unless I have to, unless
Exactly.
I
And it's cold
must.
and it helps, nobody wants to go out when it's, you know, -10 degrees out like it is most years. Except last Christmas was really warm. And I remember riding my bike outside. It was like 55 degrees. But, yeah, I'm this vaccine, like, there's been more good vaccine news, and I'm just like, all right, let's keep this going. We got
Keep
2
the
weeks.
vibes. Let's keep those good vibes going,
Yep.
folks.
I'm ready
Yes.
to get like let's pick up the pace. I'm
Pick up the pace. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
yep. But yeah.
I feel you on that. I definitely feel you on that. Wow. Well, I like to end this on a happy note.
Sure.
Last thing I want to do is end on coronavirus.
Oh, who wants
Um,
to end on coronavirus? God.
why do you do this? Specifically, why do you compose for film? Why do you write songs? What do you think is the reasoning behind your obsession with this? Because that's the only way you could do this is because of an obsession. At least that's how I feel
I
about it.
mean, yeah. I I make music in general. My own music I make just because I feel like I like the way it sounds. I like when I sound good, I
That's
like
good.
listening to myself. So, but I just, I feel like it's one of the few things I'm like really good at, sort of. No, I'm good at it. I need confidence. Anyway, yes.
I mean, listen, from what I've heard, from what I've experienced of what you've done, I would say, and this is just my opinion, so it might mean nothing to you, but you're good.
Well, thank you.
Just be good.
But yeah, I just, I don't know. Like, really, music was always just like the only thing that I just did, Like in high school, well, I just decided actually to go into film school because I was like, I need to do something else. And then as I was in like my last 2 years of college, I was like, actually, I'm still way into music more than I am to film. So I do film scoring because I like music and because I have a degree in film, so I know how to do it and I know that I can make a living off of it. But I do my own music because it's just like I don't know, it's kind of like a weird question. That's like asking me like why am I black? Cuz I just am. I just do it,
Yeah, no,
That's just me,
it is a weird. It is weird.
So,
What?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like why? I always love when people say, "Why would you be an artist?" I'm like, because I couldn't do anything else.
yeah.
Like
I
I
mean, and
couldn't
also
do anything else properly, and this was my only source of fulfillment.
yeah, I just enjoy it. I just enjoy singing. Um and I don't really my goal in life, well, I mean, as we were obviously earlier talking about like economics and capitalism and my dislike for it, I don't do really anything for money. Money is like, well, I mean, I only money is only a commodity, and so I do things because I like to do them, or I do film because I know that I can use that to fuel doing more music. So I don't know if that sounds bad. Sound design,
No.
like, I only do like stuff for friends for free, like if I really like the project, but like it's just a commodity to fuel music. But I still am able to find, I mean, I've been able to find good connections through it, and then like projects where I've sound designed only, and then the person came back for another project, and I'm like, oh, I also compose too. And then I get kind of on that composing train, and it's still fun to do. And I like to challenge myself, and yeah, so I just, I feel like art and music, like music as an art, is like just the only thing that I've always just like considered. So I never
Mhm.
really was like, oh, I'm going to be this and that. Like, you know, I I mean, I'm good at writing, but that also ties into writing songs. I'm really good at writing songs, which I really didn't start writing songs until like 2018. But yeah, so I just do it because like it's the only thing that I just feel like I'm good at and know how to do, and I also get a lot of enjoyment from it. Like performing on stage, I think is one of my favorite things to do too. Um, and like creating different just creating music. Like I really enjoy the producing aspect of music too. Like once I've written a song and then I'm like, all right, we got to add elements. That's really where my creativity like jumps out, and like I take, just a song with words and chords and turn it into like a whole thing. Like that is probably the most fun part of making music. And then just playing music with friends live, which I'm gonna do soon. That's like one of my favorite things too. So yeah, I just enjoy it. It brings me joy.
Brings you joy. Well, I think that's the only way to go about it.
Yeah.
Um, my philosophy with it is like if you're doing it for money, can't I mean I don't know how you could, because if you're
Yeah.
only into this because you want to make like a lot of money, because I know film and directing is very attractive.
Hmm.
Not saying that like you couldn't like desire to be famous, but like if that's your only reason for doing it, you're not going to want to learn all the necessary things that are required to make you good at it. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
doing movies for money, that just feels very Michael Bay to me.
Or well, yeah, if that yeah, that is like when it's all about the money. That's when
Yep.
it's like manifested. It's like a Transformers movie. Like that's what
Hmm.
that is. And if that's your thing, bro, do it. People like it. There's a lot of people who watch those movies. So I mean, listen, you're catering to someone,
Definitely.
but
But
I don't know. It just I feel like when that's your main focus, you're kind of doing it for the wrong reasons.
no, I definitely agree. It should definitely be, or I mean, as long as at least like the writer or the person who wrote it like is not doing it from it. Which, I mean, I'm not much of a writer when it comes to film, but I know that film writers get paid very poorly as opposed to like TV. But like even if there's good intentions in the script, I mean, if it's translated poorly to like some director that's like, all right, I'm just doing this for a paycheck, then it still can be bad. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. It's gonna be, you know, I think it's just films are just better when there's like intention and passion put into each role.
Well, yeah, it always gets but you'd be surprised in film school there always is this. I mean, because you there's always this debate. Like there's always this debate on like I once had someone tell me that like art films are pretentious.
I mean, I
And
agree.
I mean, like
Some
they
of them.
kind of are, but it's like, okay, so what? Would you rather just someone not put any thought into it?
That's true. There's a line. Like when I watch like a have you seen that new movie by the guy that made Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Oh, the are you talking about the I'm thinking about ending things thing on
Yeah.
Netflix?
I watched that one. Have you seen that?
I have seen it. Yes, my girlfriend was like, we need to watch this because it's so crazy, and I was like,
Did you
you
like
know,
it? I hated it so much.
there were things about there were moments and scenes that, from just a technical standpoint, and I thought were just beautiful,
I mean,
and I
technically it
was
was great.
and I was
Like,
into that, and some of the writing I was into. I think he was just trying so hard to be cryptic,
mhm.
and I appreciate it, but I wouldn't watch it again in a very long time.
That's exactly how I feel. I mean, I really liked like Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind. I think is a great movie. And I'm trying to remember what is the director's name? I like why do I forget his name every time?
Are you talking? It's Charlie Kaufman, right?
Yeah, yeah, Kaufman, Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what he did Synecdoche, New York, which has a great song in there that I love that I performed a few times. Um, what Eternal Sunshine and Being John Malkovich. I've never actually seen that, but I have seen Eternal Sunshine, and so I watched it because I was like, oh, this looks interesting. It looked like a horror movie. Also, Toni Collette was in it, and I love her in Hereditary. It's one of my favorite movies, so I had to watch. But then it was just so like, it was making a point about things, yes, but like, I feel like it could have not been as cryptic. Like, it could have just kind of been a little more forward and just said, oh, this guy is regretting his life. Instead of like, at first I thought it was about Alzheimer's because like they kept forgetting things and like changing things, and then it was too much for me. So yeah, I thought that
Okay.
was kind of pretentious.
Now this might be a really hard question to answer, but what did you think the film meant?
um, I thought it was about he was looking back on his life, regretting, um, like the fact that he's ending up alone. Like he dies in the end, he kills himself, or he just freezes to death in his car. That's what it implies,
Mhm.
and it's kind of just like what's going through his mind before he does that. That's kind of all I feel like you need to know, and then the rest is abstract, and you can kind of figure out. But it was also like I watched like an explanation too, but like it was based off of Oklahoma, which I never have seen. Um, but like they used a lot of references to that musical, and yeah, so it was just him regretting the fact that he's super socially awkward and could never have the life that he wanted, and he dies alone, an old man. That's just what it's about. But I feel like he could have done it a little differently.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It
Is that
was
what you
weird
thought it was about?
because it's told through the his girlfriend's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but it is it I you all I mean the second that you get those flashes of the old guy and the janitor, okay, no, this is probably his story.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know she's narrating, but it's probably his story. And then obviously the story confirms that. But yeah, I just thought that, like, I mean it was about regret, and I always felt like he, because then you got to think about the whole parent stuff, and then he like takes care of his parents, and it's basically like taking a collage of emotions and energy and feelings that you had in your entire life and condensing it to one night at dinner or one car ride home.
Yeah.
And while I think that's really cool, I don't know if you really got that.
Exactly. I really thought it was about like his parents going through Alzheimer's or him going through Alzheimer's or dementia or something because they kept forgetting things and they were old and wouldn't remember something. And yeah, like they kept changing the things they were saying or like changing their clothes and like repeating stuff. That's what it seemed like to me at first, and that would have made sense to me. I also felt like it really could have done without the like 30 minutes of car riding of them reciting poetry. Like it just almost felt like it would have been better as like a really abstract stage play.
Well, because it was a book, and I've read the
Hmm.
book is great.
But those don't always translate. Like that's the kind of I don't know that type of. I've never read the book, but just from watching the movie, I can imagine that it definitely works better as a book.
Yeah, I don't even. it does make me want to read it. But I think your idea of a really cool stage play that would be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's probably made one. I mean, I assume the book is slightly popular since he made it into a movie, so somebody had to know about it. But yeah, I mean, it just wasn't my taste. Interesting themes, but like the delivery, it was just I almost turned it off halfway through because I'm like, all right, like let's cut to the chase. Like what's going on? And I started dancing in like a empty school hallway, and then the random CGI pig. I was like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to assume that everyone watching this has seen the movie.
True, true.
but I mean, I feel like you should watch it one time before you die. It's one of
I
those
mean,
movies.
if
Watch
you
it one
want to.
time. What?
I said if people want to, if they have
If you
two
want
and a
to.
half hours and they want to watch a movie that's cerebral and existential, go ahead.
Yeah. It's your right. You can do that. That's how you can spend your hours. Yeah, I don't know. I did feel at the end of it like I should have gotten some time back.
Same.
A little bit.
Same.
Well, I guess the point of the story is I'm thinking about ending things. You probably should have just ended it in the second act. And it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine. You would have basically have already had a beginning, middle, and an end. And you wouldn't have
True.
needed to gone further than that.
But it's Kaufman, you know, he's gonna do what
But
he's
but
gonna do.
it's Kaufman. But it's Kaufman. I don't think I've seen a lot of Kaufman films.
Well, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is quite good, and I watched some of Synecdoche, New York, but then I didn't finish watching it. My my ex who liked free jazz music was obsessed with it, so I was like, you know, I didn't finish watching it after we broke up because I was like, nah, I'm good. But yeah, so I've heard, but I do like Eternal Sunshine. Have you seen that one?
Uh-huh. No, it's good.
It is.
It's not my, you know, I don't watch it all the time, but I'm in my fields. I
True.
pop it in,
Pop it in.
get a little ice cream, chill out a little bit. I actually no. What am I saying? I don't eat ice cream anymore. So I'm
You know,
vegan.
there's vegan ice cream, right? I'm
I know,
allergic to
I know,
dairy,
I
and
know.
I
I just haven't gotten around again and yet.
you okay? I can recommend you some good brands. Like I'm not vegan. I used to be vegan for a bit, but I do have a severe dairy allergy, and so I mean, I'm basically vegan except I eat meat, which is so stupid, but I don't eat dairy, you know? So I eat a lot of, well, I don't eat a lot of vegan ice cream, but Trader Joe's get their like soy delicious vanilla ice cream. That shit slaps. And then they have this mango flavor too, but Trader Joe's ice cream, definitely a must.
Okay. I go to Trader Joe's a lot. I didn't even realize that they had vegan ice cream.
Yep. I mean, if you go to the one on Diversity, it's like in the
That's the one that I go to. I live
it's in the
like a
frozen
block
aisle
away.
on the left
Yeah.
side. So
Okay. Well, next I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it. Me and my girlfriend have not had vegan ice cream yet. Not together,
you
at
all
least.
are missing out. You need to
We're
get on
we're,
that.
we're missing out on life right now, and I
Yeah.
can't stand it anymore. Oh my god, I need to get that shit.
Hell yeah.
It was soy. It's
Soy,
soy
I think it's
vanilla.
either so delicious or soy delicious, but it's like vanilla flavored. And then that they might have a mango one. And sometimes they have a mango and vanilla mixed together. And then there's this chocolate one. Wait, no, sorry. The Trader Joe's vanilla ice cream comes in a white and green container, and that's also really good. And then they also have a cherry chocolate one that comes in a red and green container, and that's also good. So, highly
That
recommend.
sounds like it slaps.
It does.
Oh my god. No, I'm gonna get that right now when we're done with this. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
you should.
A chocolate chair. I haven't had something that delicious in a very long time. It feels like that. Wow.
Just treat yourself. Isn't it almost finals are almost over, right? Or it's just starting?
Oh my god. Oh.
Maybe you should do your homework. We have been talking for
Oh.
almost 3 hours.
Wait. Oh my shit! I think this might be. Well, this is coming out close to the longest podcast we've ever done.
You might have to edit some stuff out.
Oh no! Oh no! That's a rule. I don't unless. No, I mean, ah, no, I wouldn't want to edit any of this out.
All right, well, hopefully people listen to the whole thing. I don't
I
know.
mean, they better. They probably won't. People have really short attention spans.
Oops. Well, I mean, I'm a big podcast listener. I'll listen while I'm like doing stuff. It's kind of nice.
I yeah, no, but yeah, that's the thing. I really do believe because I mean I just watched a podcast yesterday for it was like so long, but I listened to the whole thing because I was so engaged with what they were talking about. I think people I mean I think people love this form,
Hmm.
this format. It's just it's taken away all the like on television, it always feels like we're watching a mirage. Like when you watch a late night talk show, you just get a little sound bite of what celebrities saying. It's like this, like they're acting while they're on stage, so it's like you're not really getting their personality.
Hmm.
Podcast, that's taking all that away. I mean, I think that's infectious. I think it's. I mean, I feel like you know there was a statistic that blew my mind about how many Americans like really like are invested in watching a podcast. And it was like I forget the exact number, but it was like in the 50 to 60% range, maybe a little over than that. But I
Well,
thought it
yeah.
would be higher.
Well, quarantine has definitely helped probably add more to that since people don't have anything to do.
Yes. Yes. Making content, this is a good time to make content. It's
Indeed.
great. It's a great time to do it.
Indeed it is. Well, my cat is going crazy outside my door because I am 20 minutes late to feeding her.
You are to, oh my goodness. Well, I didn't want to. I don't want to fuck up your cat's eating
she's
schedule.
already she's really stupid. I like love her, but she's so dumb. Like I bought her a new like cat tree thing to scratch and climb on, and she won't go in it. Except I gave her catnip today, and then she went crazy and started like rolling around and jumping on it, and then she just follows me everywhere. And then if I let her in my room and then I leave my room, she'll want to leave my room and then follow me. She's also like 12 years old. I only got her last year. Her name she's her name is Lady Dickolas Cheney Van Dyke. Um because me and my roommates last year thought it would be funny to name our cat Dick Cheney, and then we named her Dickolas to like
Nicholas.
yes. Well,
Ah,
my family will now
ah.
call her Lady, but yes. So yeah, she's
That's that's amazing.
thank you. She has two teeth. We had to
Oh,
remove them all. She got like really a bad gum disease, and they had to remove her teeth. So she has two teeth, and she doesn't know how to drink water normally. And she's like an old person. She's always like smacking her lips, and since she has no teeth, she's like, it's so cute. But yeah, she's going bonkers outside my door right now. You probably can't hear her because his mic is not picking it up. But yeah,
no, I haven't heard anything.
oh, that's
Um,
good.
I've heard nothing from Nicholas Cheney. And I've not. I have not. What's the full name again?
Lady Dickolas Cheney Van Dyke. I wanted to pay homage to the great Dicks. Dick Van Dyke, Dick Cheney, war criminal. So had to give her a little spicy name.
Lady Nicholas Cheney Van Dyke.
Yes, but everyone just calls her Lady except for me. I call her I call her Thickolas actually, and she's really skinny. She's only like 5.
Nicholas.
She has a kidney disease, so she's really skinny. She's old. She's like 12 or 13. So
He's an elder cat.
yep, she do be chilling all the time. She kills rats sometimes in our yard. When she gets scared, she pees on me. It's great.
Yeah, my cat Coco. He's the same. He's this old cat. He's a little
Hmm.
chunky now. He's not in the best shape of his life, and he's just kind of like he just lounges and sometimes he'll go outside and like kill a little mouse. And yeah, he does this. It's the same thing.
That's why I love animals. Well, cats in general. Just funny to me because you're supposed to get wiser when you're older, but they're still just as dumb as they were when they were little. At least cats, like they could learn stuff. Like I tried to train her, but like she just doesn't want to. She could, but she's like, I'd rather sleep for 12 hours a day and then scream outside your door whenever I need to eat food, which is at 3 in the morning. It's great.
Hey, what the fuck kind of schedule is this cat on?
I feed her in the mornings and the evenings, but she's hungry all the time. But then if I feed her, she won't eat it. So I'm like, what do you want from me? Then she wants to eat all of my food. She was eating my can of soup today. So yeah, it's probably not good for her kidneys. She's still alive though. Yep. But yeah, she is going crazy, so I actually should probably go feed her.
Listen, well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, it was
I'm so
fun.
glad. You know, where can people, where can people find you, and where can people find your stuff, like stuff that
Um,
you make?
well, if you want to hire me for film stuff, you can look at my website at gabriellemhenderson.com. And then for
Go.
music, all my stuff is on Spotify. Also, check out, I have two music videos on YouTube. You just search my name, Gabby Henderson, and those should pop up. So yeah, but I'll just give you the links so that you can like link them and
Yes,
people can
yes,
like look at it.
we'll take care of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, so I'm out in the interwebs and I don't know, follow me on Instagram or something. That's where I'm most active, even though I hate Instagram. It's terrible. It's
Why
the
is
worst app.
Instagram terrible?
They keep
I,
changing stuff and they keep making it into a shopping app and it's like, okay, like we get it. You just want to make money off of it. Some people are actually trying to keep up with their friends, but whatever, gotta get the word out somehow. Maybe I'll just try to become TikTok famous or something. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. I've just gotten into TikTok. I was really late to that.
Mm.
TikTok to me is the greatest thing ever.
It is great. I spend more than like 5 hours a day on it, and I should not do that because that's bad. But yes, I love TikTok as well. It has lots of potential and weird stuff, and it's cool, but also it feels like Tumblr from 2014. But you know what? A lot of musicians are able to get their careers going on there, so I'm just gonna see if I can get anything from
Oh,
them.
see what's up. See what's up there.
Exactly. But yeah, so people can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. Actually, probably don't follow me on TikTok. Or maybe do,
Well, no,
actually.
you should definitely, yeah,
Yes,
follow
I
you on follow her on TikTok, guys. It's
yes, I
great
think
stuff.
I don't even know what my username is. I'll give it to you and you'll put it in the description. I don't know what I just post like weird shit, but I'm gonna start actually posting like videos of like singing. I have one singing video out there that it got some views, but the rest of them is just like me being weird and like trying to be funny and it gets like 2 views. So
Hey,
give me
hey,
views, guys.
gotta start somewhere. Gotta start somewhere.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I don't want to keep you from tending to Dickolas Cheney
Oh, of course, of course.
anymore.
She'd be happy about that.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
of
being on the
course.
show.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was fun. Enjoyed talking about a plethora of topics. We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I well, we'll see when it gets posted and everything. Yeah, we covered a lot of stuff, and I think we I'm gonna have to mull over a lot of it tonight. You gave me a lot of stuff to think about. Yeah,
For sure. Well, this was fun.
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gabby. I will
Thank
see you
you.
later.
All right, bye.